teams want to go based on their Hecarim trait. Everyone agrees Hecarim's the best jungler. You just take the Hecarim if it's available. But afterwards, you can kind of tell if teams are more skirmish-oriented or teamfight-oriented, if they go for the Udyr or if they go for the Lilia in response. And JD Gaming is the sort of team that will go for the Udyr. They are the skirmish-focused team.
Yeah.
I think they like to play a more active game in the early phases. And it seems a lot better for Yagao to be playing things like the Zoe, like the Sylas, like the Set, rather than things like the Orianna and Victor. I think those champions, he can play them, but he doesn't look as comfortable. That's definitely not why you want to have Yagao on your roster anyway. Just giving him the flex, giving him his pocket picks early on, I think has been much more efficient for JD Gaming as a whole.
I think the Sylas in game number 1 was huge to me, right?
Yeah.
As going to the playoffs, is you're indexing a lot on that flexibility, and that's like the essence of Sylas, and being able to pull that one out, have that flexibility for themselves across the board is really good. And I still think that, you know, with what we saw today and with kind of that shoring up of the pieces, another bright spot for me, it has been a bright spot for JDG a lot in the past, and especially here recently, but Kanavi, man. Kanavi in this one. Even though maybe it's not the brightest, shiniest, craziest plays, doesn't have the most insane KDA, he's still able to get the resources where they matter and to the right champions.
Yeah, I sort of predicted JD Gaming to have a very, very strong patch. This is the clock turning back into their favor. And the thing about Kanavi is people laud him as the sort of first carry jungle to make it. That's how he won the MVP, by just farming up a storm in the early game and being a carry later on. But he actually took a huge dip in the actual carry jungler meta. And the huge thing about him is Kanavi is, his strength really isn't pure farming. His strength is understanding where he can get EXP from the lane. His claim to fame was actually leeching from the top lane to get level 4. That was his, MVP play. So in this meta where jungle camps actually give you less resources and relatively speaking, experience from the lane is more valuable, we've actually seen Kanavi perform better. He is the carry jungler, but he doesn't excel in the carry jungler meta, so to speak. He has his own sort of idiosyncrasies and his own style on the game, and this is a great meta for JD Gaming. I feel like there's so many different picks that have rose to prominence. The Kiana that we have seen Yagao sort of hover a couple of times in draft, Varus being a huge one for Loken, and just the jungle experience changes actually favoring the style of Kanavi. Getting him back into that MVP form just means that Spring Split once again is JD Gaming's time to shine. They always show up huge in spring.
I want to see who brings out the Garen next time around.
Okay.
Yagao is not getting the MVP this time around, as it will be Lumao picking that one up with that great set performance.
Yeah, his disengages were tremendous. I love the patience that he had on the set, just waiting around the corner, getting that getting the first kill actually onto Aki's Lilia, and also disengaging so many times for his AD carry in Loken. You don't typically think about Set as a disengaged champion, but when you give Lumao this one, he can still make it work. Really good performance from him. The only thing I'm missing this split, honestly, is a little bit of Bard. I know it's not really in meta at all, but I miss that champion so much.
I feel you on that one. I know what you mean, but yeah, I just think for me, for Lumao in this one, it's like the engages were so good. He was able to just play confident on the set, be always in the face of OMG, but also being the one that OMG were focusing on, buying so much time in so many of these fights for his squad.
Yeah, it really is difficult to burst down a set through his W ability. Gets a lot of shield on that, also a lot of healing. And we have to mention once again why Set is so important for a team like JD Gaming. It allows them to triple flex this champion. They can pull it out early on blue side. And we have been seeing it around the globe, just being used as a counter to the pure top lane picks, pure top lane tank picks, like the Sion and the Ornn. Gives you a good matchup there. And also just the support pick is massive. In the mid lane position, it allows you to play AP carries too. So we will be seeing a lot of Lilia compositions actually just go for the Set. Very, very strong with the priority. I think it's finally time, but Set is once again just going to be popping back into the meta.
looking like it at least, and it has a lot of viability into those tanks, as you're saying. I just like in that last clip that like literally that was OMG, that was cold, like engaging that one, and they got turned around completely on it. But Clement, it is time to hear from Zoom with Wendy taking over the interview.
Hi everyone, welcome to the interview, and here we have Zoom from JD Gaming with us. So congratulations on this 2-0 victory. And in the pre-match interviews, you have mentioned JD Gaming is a relatively slow-warming team, but now you are able to end up this regular season with 6 consecutive wins. So how do you evaluate the JD Game's performance for this regular season generally? 那首先恭喜你们今天很漂亮2-0拿下胜利嘛。那在赛前预录制的时候，你有提到感觉队伍是一个比较慢热的队伍。那现在在赛程的后半期，现在是以6连胜来终结了我们整个常规赛的一个征程。那你整个觉得队伍在这个常规赛发挥怎么样呢？
我感觉就前半段发挥的有点不太好吧，然后后面我们调整回来了之后都打得挺好的。
I feel like in the early half of the split, we didn't manage to have a very good performance, but after some modifications and adjustments, I feel we were able to show the better performance on the stage. And also, let's move on to today's game. In game 1, you have brought up this top Nocturne again, and we have noticed you have played this champion, the solo ranks, a lot currently. But to be honest, in this split, we have seen so many mid Nocturnes. So compared to the mid Nocturne, what in your perspective, what is the strength or the strongest point for the top Nocturne? 那其实你在第1局的时候也拿到了一个上单的梦魇嘛，再次拿出上单梦魇，而且这个英雄也是感觉你在最近rank 的时候也经常使用的。但其实我们在这个赛季经常能看到的是中单的一个梦魇。那你觉得和中单梦魇相比，上单梦魇的有什么一项强处呢？
因为如果中单梦魇的话，就队伍的阵容就比较难配吧。因为如果中单梦魇的话，就会少一个中单的后期法师，所以说我觉得上单梦魇的话，可能比较更适合这个版本嘛。因为上单本身就是那种半肉的和 AD 的那种战士比较偏多一点。
We feel like if you choose the mid Nocturne, maybe it's very hard to have a very good draft because usually in the if you choose the mid Nocturne, you'll be lack of the AP damage because usually the mid lane player should play a very late game mage. So I feel like in the current meta, the top Nocturne can be a very good pick and can really fit into our playstyle and really fits into the draft as well. And also the game 2 started with 4v4 level 1 team fight. Although at that time you were on the top lane, but I'm very curious about what happened at that time. 那其实第2局的时候，一开局就是一个4v4的一波团嘛。然后想问一下，当时是发生了什么？虽然说你那个时候在上路，但当时队友们有什么样的一个沟通吗？
因为莉莉娅的话就很容易一级进嘛，所以说我们有先想到吧。然后我记得当时我在上面看的时候，他们就说一直在说打 EZ 打 EZ， 然后我感觉确实我们能先秒一个，然后就感觉会赢。
Because opponents team they have the Lilia, so we feel with Lilia that they may have the level 1 invasion. So we have already predicted this, and also for the level 1 team fight. Although I was on the top lane, but I heard my other teammates that have shot. We can just target on the Azrael first. If we can smash one opponents, I believe we can win the level 1 team fight and grab some leads. And also, the game 2 is super one-sided. But at the end of the game 2, when you guys were tended to just break the opponent's nexus and end up the game, they fought back and also got the Baron. So what's the team's communication at that time, even though you're on a huge lead? 那第2局其实也是比较一边倒的嘛，但是在你们想要去直接一波结束掉比赛的时候，然后对面其实反打回来，然后最后拿掉了大龙嘛。虽然那个时候你们也是有很大的一个领先，但是想问一下，当时队内有说些什么吗？
因为他们门牙已经掉了吧，然后他们为了打大龙，肯定也会有减员嘛，所以说我们5个人复活出来去推的话，他们应该是守不住的，所以当时也没有很慌。
We were not worried at that time because the opponent's Nexus inhibitor has already been broken, and also if they really want to take that Baron, maybe some opponents they may be killed. So after we were recalled, so I think it's a very good opportunity for us to grab the win and also end up the game. So we are not that worried about the that situation. And also my next question is, the next journey for you guys is the playoffs. So is there any special preparation that you guys will focus on to have an even better performance in the playoffs? 那最后一个问题也是，那下面的征程就是要季后赛了嘛？那可能在最近会做哪些特别的准备呢？能够在季后赛有一个更好的发挥？
我们要准备的话，就是更扩充一些英雄池吧，就玩一些让大家意想不到的英雄，就奇招制胜吧。
I think in terms of the preparation, maybe we will try to prepare a broader champion pool, and maybe we can have some unexpected picks to pick on the stage. So I think that's the most important part for us in the preparation. And thank you for the sharing, and best of luck for the playoff. 那再次恭喜你们季后赛，加油 ！And back to you guys. Bye bye.
Thank you so much, Wendy, and thank you so much, Zoom, for giving us a little bit of perspective, a little bit of insight into those interesting choices. All I heard at the end there is that we're going to be getting Garen at some point.
I hope so. We have heard this from a lot of different teams. They view playoffs, the main strategy they have to come up with is getting new champion pools into the rotations. And I think with the current way the drafts are handled, the big thing is going to be about bot lane drafts. We have seen mainly the first round of rotation be jungle pick into support and AD carry. And whoever can actually counter out the enemy's bot lane draft, usually coming in from the blue side, is going to have a massive advantage. That's what I want to see, all the sort of special AD carries finally going to come out, and whoever can figure that one out is going to get into the playoffs with a huge leg up.
We're getting so close, Clement. I can feel it. We're getting close to the playoffs. We still got another series of the night, though. We're going to send to a little break, but on the other side, we have Suning taking on Billy Billy. You're not going to want to miss it.
MSI 季中冠军赛
MSI God! MSI is back!
左一已经先行倒在地上，这是 JDG 一波反打的机会，剑魔再次入场开启大面，他如同天神下凡。
交掉了 Q 这边在观望，第一波进场加料只炸到了一个狗熊，加料回身已经被打断。哇，这个铁卡到位了吗？
下一个是谁？阿卡丽又进来杀人了，先把熊给宰掉 ，TP Dot 交出自己的闪现往后拉，但是巴德一个非常精准的定住了2个人，
连不到了，哇 ，Holder 直接瞬间融化。
英雄联盟真是完成了一个恐怖游戏 ，Holder 这一波真的吓得不轻。
亚高再上城做以后，输出现在武器感觉在这。
哇，太惨了！这场比赛已经变成了一场屠杀。
血腥程度就是高，对，甭管打谁就一直打，真的就是一直打，连血腥程度都要比的吗？这个1、2赛区是吧？打了多长时间啊？一塔还没推掉就打到2塔推完。
It's like most of the time you play on my mind. Am I enough? Am I enough? Are you in or out? Just tell me right now. Am I enough? Ooh, am I enough? And now I'm waiting for you to make your move, but I don't know if I can wait. It's like I'm on the emotion overload. I don't know how much more
我觉得赢下 BLG 最关键的点是限制他们打野的发挥。在下场面对 BLG 的中原选手 Z 卡的时候，我觉得我会使用一些非常规的英雄，因为我们已经进了季后赛了，我们要尝试更多的英雄组合。
Welcome back to week 10 of the LPL. Again, I'm Mazel, and I'm joined by the lovely Clement as we're going to be diving into this second series of the night. A little higher stakes going into this one, Clement, as we're going to be watching BLG versus Suning.
BLG have such a tough road ahead of them. They are currently sitting at 11th place, just outside of playoffs, and they still have to claw over Suning and FPX. A must-win game for them coming up.
Yeah, they have to show up here. This is the shining moments for BLG if they want to make the dream happen, if they want to make the road continue. But we're going to set our sights for it. We're going to set our sights on what these teams are looking at in their current positions and what they're trying to achieve coming forward.
Yeah, they have playoff slots, but Suning could still move up in the positioning by 1 slot so far, and this has been a very good season for Suning. A lot of us had them falling even lower with the loss of Sword Art, their main shot caller, but they've actually had a lot of strong performance from on, even showing up on Rookie of the Week in Week 9. For the other instance on BLG, not really quite getting there. Aiming has shown a very strong start of the split, but later on, it seems like they haven't been able to put their team fighting pieces together, and they now find themselves fighting for their lives.
Yeah, I think the big thing for me is seeing the successes that these teams have had, right? Being able to see Suning take down IG, take down Top, and for BLG taking down RNG, RA. Those are some big wins, even if they aren't that recent, right? You still have some of those lingering from past times, but that is how you got to kind of take your eggs going forward, and especially putting them into the right baskets, if you will, Clement, as it's all about one thing for me, and especially when we're looking at BLG, we're looking at positioning for this team. We're looking at how can they find themselves in the team fights, how can they have that heads up play for themselves, and how can they get aiming to be free hitting on the back line.
BLG is a team that loves playing around aiming, so I see this series as being very AD carry focused between Huanfeng and aiming himself. And the team fighting style is also quite different from BLG. BLG actually run a lot of short range AD carries. They do things like Samira used to be a huge pick for them coming into it. Kaisa is still huge for aiming. So how they actually set up the fight early is incredibly important. And aiming has been, has been one of those players that has not really gone for Tristana. Tristana has yet to be one of their highlight picks. He doesn't seem particularly comfortable on it, and they weren't able to claw a win with the pick against WE, even though, WE is just a tough opponent overall. So we have to see if he is going to be comfortable on Tristana controlling the waves going forward, or if he is going to divert back into something that's more frontline and burst focused, like the Kaisa, which has been sort of his go-to.
Yeah, I think that's where the draft is going to mean a lot for how this series is going to kind of play out in the mini series meta here. But as you see, this is exactly what we're talking about when we're looking at positioning for BLG. WE are there. They make the advancement. They get trounced on. And the fact that aiming is just there, able to be a menace on the back line. And it continues into a lot of the fights we see in this series in particular.
Yeah, BLG for me are a skirmish-oriented team. They don't really excel at the straight-up 5v5, so I think a lot of times what they're going to be looking for is to have these sort of snipe-off picks into the early game. However, like we just saw there, if their front line gets in position and is able to peel for aiming, then we could be seeing a different story. That has been the biggest challenge to BLG so far. Getting Bubu and getting the support of Jaewei, who's a relatively newcomer to the team, to be able to protect and push the lines forward for aiming to deal damage.
Yeah, I think that is heads and tails, or heads over tails. I guess the best thing that you can look for BLG is getting aiming ahead. Having even Zika and Meteor be a strong force for themselves early on can be really good to transition that into aiming's lead. But when you're looking at the other side, there's one name that comes to mind, and I gotta say it's Huanfeng for Suning, because we talked a little bit about ADCs being important this one. This guy is just a little important to the team, I would say, Clement.
His CSing scores are absolutely disgusting at this point, and he has been the main carry for Suning going forward. The big consistent factor. Look at his laning phase, the CSD, very, very high up, and just the damage numbers are tremendous as well. As we have talked about in the past, Suning is more of a slow macro team. They really aren't very fast. They're not super bloodthirsty. What they like to do is just get an unsurmountable lead for counter jungling on SOFM, and then they crush you later on when Hwanfeng does get all of his items going in. He's one of the earlier adopters to Jinx as well, and I think that's really critical coming into the playoffs. So far, we have heard teams think that Jinx is a bit of a counter to Tristana. Tristana is another one of those tier 1 picks because it can flex into multiple positions. If you have the Jinx counter, then your bottom lane is set to go. You have the best hyper carry late game in the meta so far. You can snowball with it, and we do expect Suning to just try to play defensive in the early game, move their pieces around for SOFM, avoid early action, and when it comes to the late game, it's all about Hwanfeng on these carries.
Yeah, and I love this last clip, just to dive into it a little bit more. He keeps them at arm's reach the entire time. He baits them in with the low health bar ADC, low health bar of SOFM to stay around and LNG fall for the trap, and Hwanfeng is able to just capitalize that so much. He moves forward at the exact moment he needs to, hitting the skill shots and taking advantage of being excited, and that's what we need to see him getting tonight, especially against BLG, trying to slam home that win, trying to keep their dream out in the cold, at least, Clement, and could be off the back of some Jinx play, maybe, if we do get to see it.
It's really nice to see Hwanfeng just get this new breath of fresh air. In the past, when he was paired up with Sword Art, he was kind of left alone a lot in the bottom side. So his laning stats actually weren't terrific because he was playing 1v2. A lot of times he was just on Ezreal duty to wave clear. So this is the true first split that we are seeing Hwanfeng actually walk into a hyper carry role, where his support is much more about peeling for him and just staying in the lane to get those 2v2s down. And I think it's actually worked out. That was the biggest, I think, question hanging on our minds into this split was Hwanfeng, was he just a weak side player that shows up in team fights, or can he actually play the game from start to finish? And I think we got a very clear answer onto that one. It's with On, they can play the lane really strong. They can actually stretch out CS differences and then carry into the late game.
And as I'm sure we'll see early in the draft, I'm guessing we're going to get the tried and true, getting the jungles, getting the ADCs potentially early, looking for those solo lanes later on, as we are going to be diving right into that first pick and ban, Clement. And this is, for me, the biggest moment, right? This is where we're going to see what these teams are trying to approach with today. We know where they like to play through. We know the advantages they like to try and get early on or towards those team fight potentials, but the picks are what matter, as we do have Suning on the blue side, BLG on the red for this first game. Zoe, TF, Gragas taken away by Suning. That Thresh obviously has to be taken off. I feel like we don't even need to talk about it anymore. The Camille also banned away by BLG.
So Gragas is sort of the interesting pick here. It's only been played on BuBu so far out of the entire team, and it's one of his safe top lane picks. So what Suning are setting up here is they know the counter pick from BLG usually goes to Zika, and they're trying to play through Bin's lane here, just making sure that they don't have the Gragas. Gragas actually has very, very few bad matchups. It's incredibly difficult to punish the Gragas. On the flip side, it's a lot easier to punish a Gnar blind. So Suning already setting up this draft for a potential Bin to go off. And I really want to wait and see his Jax. Bin is the Jax master, as you remember from Worlds. He even won out the Renekton lane, which was pretty insane to see. So I want to see that Jax come out.
Hey, I'm crossing my fingers here. I'd love to see a Jax be able to make it through. But we do get tried and true here. Hecarim was that first pick for Suning. Kai'Sa and Alistar, the deadly duo, if you will, in the bot lane that has been such a mainstay in the LPL, will be going to BLG.
If you were wondering if Aiming was going to go play a hyper carry, I think we have our answer already. Nah, he's just going to play for skirmish. They're going to go for their tried and true strategy. It's always really difficult to see where SOFM might be going. I'm sorry, I just got confused by the Zac, because that was actually one of SOFM's big champions, but of course they have the Hecarim already. My bad. I just was longing for it in my heart. And Suning, pretty standard. They are going to go for the Jinx regardless. We actually have seen Rell and Jinx be a pretty decent combo, because the Magnet Storm does allow you to group everyone up for that AoE on Fishbones. So that's a decent answer here. While BLG, I don't think you can actually pick Yone without seeing the mid laner. It will just be a more traditional skirmish-oriented Udyr coming out. And, you know, we've talked about this before, but you can typically see how a team mentality is at, whether they answer the Hecarim with the Udyr or with the Lilia. With Udyr, it's a little bit skirmishing focus. It's a more early game focus. With Lilia, you're really looking at post 6 and more team fight attention.
Yeah, and especially that early game is going to mean so much in this matchup in particular. I do really like that we get to see Huanfeng's Jinx again. I mentioned it a little earlier. It's going to be coming into the first game. On getting the Rel, though, his most played champion, you're definitely getting a ton of comfort right now for Suning, and that does worry me to some extent from BLG. I do still think you have some very strong pieces for BLG, but when you're giving Suning, who has shown serious potential on these picks, on this macro play that they are able to whip out with those picks, it makes me wonder what we're going to see for these solo lanes for BLG and what can really turn the tide in their favor in this draft in particular. As we are getting that second phase of bans, Clement, we see the Silence be banned away by Suning. Orianna is the response by BLG.
The counter pick here from Zika has to be massive here. He essentially has to hold out the early game. With these 3 picks already, BLG, I don't think they can contest in late game team fights. I feel like Suning have a much better front line. They have much more engaged potential. They can take front to backs easier here. So BLG most likely will just throw out a random top laner. Gnar is left open very purposefully by Suning, I feel, right now. And BLG's pick for Zika is, you know, we have seen some weird picks from him. He has gone for the Echo in the past, or something even like the Yone to counter it out, but a lot is riding on him. I feel like he has to be the early game engine to allow them to play early picks, and I'm a little surprised by this Azir. This Azir takes them into a completely different direction, and it's not exactly a comfortable one.
Not necessarily, especially. I will say, though, how do you get comfort when you have 4 bans levied against you on the other side? I feel so bad for Zika. He's getting completely focused out, but does get this tried and true Azir. Maybe he'll be able to make it work, help his team out a little bit more. It does give you that later game scaling that you were kind of talking about they didn't have, so maybe that's the idea. But I feel like you're right. Like, you should index more into that early game skirmishing. If you want to win that way, if you're setting yourself up to win that way, you need to put everything towards that. And the Kassadin is actually coming out for Suning here.
We are gonna get the Angels special. Whenever he sees this Azir, he's gonna pop out the Kassadin. Really strong builds on him. Before, we have seen the Everfrost just make Kassadin a lot stronger, extra HP. You can follow up on the slows easier and just get a lot of damage on your E's right now with the Everfrost addition to limiting mobility. So I think Suning had this very well planned out. They understood that hey, if Zika's going to go for just a control mage, we have all the cards in hand. And the reason I didn't really like the Azir is because Azir pretty much locks you into team fighting, but you're trying to team fight with Udyr and Kai'Sa against the likes of Hecarim and Jinx. So if you want to build that way, you can, but your composition is just going to end up inferior anyway. I expected them to try and pull out something a little bit more radical and try to play the early game out, but BLG right now with this draft, they're saying we're going to try and play top lane and bot lane at the same time, and that's
at the same time.
That's just not how you want to draft, honestly. It's you would much rather have a strong mid lane and one out of the 2 strong side lanes, rather than having 2 strong side lanes that both need attention.
I will say, you know, even if it's maybe playing on 2 separate sides of the map, I do like the Jace, right? You do have the Bew special, at least we're talking about specials, his most played champion of this split so far, and going against Ben on the Gnar, who was able to freely get that one as there was let through. But Jace can have so much pressure in the lane, can be able to turn that snowball over. It's just that, hey, like, who do you focus for BLG, right? I feel like a lot of it's going to come down to that early pathing and where Meteor is really looking towards.
I will say BLG's composition in the early game, they actually have triple prio lanes. Kai'Sa against Jinx does have a bit more power there, and you have Azir that can poke out cast in early, and top lane BB should have an advantage as well. So it's very feasible for BLG to actually shut down SOFM in the early game, counter it jungle, and just make sure that Suning never gets the late game. If this game goes to late, I don't even care about the Azir. Suning is still going to win this one hands down. It's going to be a very easy stop for them. So BLG, they have to go all in early, and they have to get this lane priority into the enemy jungle.
And I know I may be crazy, but Hail Blades on Azir, I like it. We'll see what it works out for as we do hit the rift here. Can Suning climb that ladder a little bit more? Can they stop BLG from continuing the dream of getting into the playoffs? We'll find out soon as we get to see Suning taking on Billy Billy.
And just an early level 1, you do expect some sort of wards to come down for BLG actually. They are going to play a very invade-focused game, so I do want to see them try and venture into the jungle just a bit more. Probably a late invade coming out from Jayway, as he does have the, both of them have trinkets in the bottom side.
Just a little bit of early vision advantage being gained, at least from BLG's side, trying to find the pathing that SOFM can likely take in this matchup. But we do see both junglers starting towards the bot side. So a lot of focus, more than likely, towards the mid, towards that top lane, although some shenanigans can happen in those pathings. Clement, I'm sure that we'll see these junglers butting heads at some point early on, because that's what we typically see with this matchup.
I do want to point out the runes coming in from Angel. It's super interesting, but he is going Resolve mid laner, taking the second win here just to keep his HP alive. And like we mentioned, BLG will get a pretty good info scout on where the lanes actually start out here. It's going to be bottom side, just start for Hecarim, and I want to see if they're able to collapse onto the top side with this. Hecarim has to path toward top side, and he's going to be going up against double bio lanes from BLG pushing in.
Yeah, so maybe we'll see a little bit of... I would like to see a little bit of early engagements coming out from either of these sides, because you've gotten, especially from the side of BLG, right? You were talking about how you have all that prior, you have a lot of that early game potential, that early game skirmishing available to you if you want. And so I need Meteor to kind of take advantage of that, right? And I need him to try to set up that advantage, set up that tempo for himself. But you've always got to worry about where SOFM is going to be, where he's going to be looking to help, if he's going to be looking to counter gank, or if he's just going to be looking for the advantages himself. Because I feel like whoever strikes first gets that tempo, and it's going to be hard to regain it at most points.
Yeah, 100% what BLG should be getting is the Herald here. Not the Herald, the early Scuttle here. But Bin, surprisingly for me, has actually been doing very well in this lane. Usually you do not see this lane this healthy for the Gnar, and Jayway, he has a Hex Flash, but goes for opportunistic Q in and doesn't get anything out of it.
Hwanfeng has to burn the flash though, so you got a little bit of something.
Oh, true.
Maybe they'll be able to re-gank there. That's unfortunate for Hwanfeng, because you never want to be flashless against an Alistar Kaisa combo with that burst that they have. And luckily he's able to get out of that combination there, but almost was trouble.
Yep, and we are going to see BLG go for the double scuttle at this point. Really good move coming out from Meteor. That's going to give him a huge EXP lead. And again, going back onto Hwanfeng.
Yeah, they got a lot of damage on him, but Jayway is getting a lot of damage on himself, and that's not where you want to be. As Meteor is looking down to the bot side, luckily both teams will back off that. BLG might advance a little bit, try to bait Suning into fighting more. It looks like both bot laners know what's going to be happening and know when to back off.
Yeah, so we are going to get a pretty steady game. We see Meteor already up by 2 camps at this point. He has another pretty comfortable clear into the top side, and I feel like this is one of those games where you just constantly clear. Like, you don't even really think about trying to get anything until some of the lanes can find more advantages on their own. Meanwhile, going in.
That's really good. The double combo here. Jayway having to run away over the Flame Chomper. SOFM shows up, and first blood goes to Suning. They are starting it up right here for themselves. They get the bot lane gank from SOFM and setting ahead Hwanfeng.
No flash onto Jayway. They go straight onto the cow, get the early kill there. And it was a little bit weird from BLG to actually fall for that, but it's just very difficult to actually get away from a Ghost Hecarim. They definitely knew his pathing at that point. They saw him on the Raptors and also saw him in the red buff. They knew where he started, so they had the timers on him, but they just didn't have the push speed to actually avoid that.
So we do have on roaming up here towards the top side of the map. Meteor a bit caught out from Suning. Actually is going to be able to get out of there without getting a lot used against him. I thought maybe that that SOFM was going to try to keep him around, get on in there, get involved, and try to lock down that Udyr, but he's not able to. Udyr's too fast, too quick, and he's going to make it back to his side of the map.
And BLG right now, I think they are in a position where they really need to defend their bottom lane. Their solo laners are fine. They will continue to accrue CS leads. But bottom lane without flash on J-Way, he's going to have a massive target on his back. They know SOFM is nearly hitting that 6. In fact, he will get this after the red buff. Oh, he's actually 2 camps away from it. So after red buff and maybe Raptors, he should be able to secure that. And he's heading straight for bot lane. That is going to be the way that Suning sort of bridge their gap between their early game and their late game. Is if this Jinx can get pushing early, has mad prio, they can swap her to bot, force Azir to play in the long side lane, which Azir is terrible at doing, and they can just coast into the late game that way.
And we're already seeing Suning moving around this dragon pit. They were trying to get some vision down there, try to get the scuttle crab down. It is Meteor looking to respond, though. He's heading down to the bot side himself. Doesn't mean that we're going to get the dragon started up just yet from either side, but we're starting to get to that point, Clement. We're starting to get the setup around this objective, as it has been on the board for about 1:40.
Yeah, and looking at the teleports here, it's a very good opportunity for Suning. I definitely feel like if they have the lane state correct, they will try to go for the bottom side. Meanwhile, BB in a bit of a trade.
Yeah, I thought Ben was going to be able to land that house, but does not. Doesn't get the extra damage down, and Bubu is actually going to be able to take the advantageous trade in that one.
Yeah, I thought Ben was going to try and push for the tower. Just tries to go for the extra damage. He is going to go back and get the steel plated caps that I've always tripped you up. Ninja tabby. So
there you go. Like it.
Yeah, just gonna go for the full wave clear ultimate instead. And we can see BLG right now trying to use mid lane prio to get into that bottom lane. That's definitely the most important project for Meteor right now, is to keep Amy's lane ahead, make sure they can't get any more kills off of J-Way.
That's what you're trying to do, and that's what I find very interesting, the differences, I guess, that we've seen between these two series so far today, right? We saw a lot of that chaos early, buying into the chaos from both sides in that series 1 with JDG taking it whole-handedly, but in this one, you know, taking it easy, making sure that these advantages are gained in the right fashions, in the right ways. And although I do feel like that puts BLG in a bit of a hard spot to work from, because you are looking for those early advantages, you do still have some of those scaling options. You do still have some of those pick options as you get into that mid game.
Yeah, I will say though, this Jace it's such a vulnerability in the late game. It can't run away from any of the engage, and if Kassadin just like touches you, you kind of die. Like it's the Jace pick pretty much locks BLG into just going early or bust, but they also have Azir, so it's
a bit of split focus.
Yeah, it's trying to keep your eyes on two things at the same time, and it's very hard to actually maneuver. And I would say that BLG probably needs something like at least a 3,000 gold lead going into the 20-minute mark for this composition to really work out.
Or to be a chameleon. You know, chameleons can keep their eyes on two things at once. Just saying. They want to throw that one in there. I don't think that has any bearance on this, but you know, it's a little something to think about when BLG is looking for something. Oh man, gets the Emperor's Divide over the wall though, as he's gonna walk away from that one. Not gonna have to burn the Summoner spell on either side. Wait. Oh no, SOFM stole the Scuttle Crab. Been very low, has the Magnar available to him, but he's just Hecarims today, man. They're just driving by, they're taking everything they want.
Yeah, and that's the big breakup point. We were talking about this matchup and saying how BLG had to get an advantage by shutting SOFM down. So far, SOFM is completely fine. He has been able to guard his own jungle, and at this point, Zika's actually losing the lane to Angel. We saw him chucked out very, very low, had to burn the Emperor's Divide. And that's the kind of thing about Kassadin these days, is it's actually fairly difficult to keep him fully down. It's not like in the past where you could just go for like 80 runes and say like, ah yeah, I'm gonna chunk you out. It's no longer a possibility for most mages. And just the null stored passive is so powerful. Now Suning going for the engage, and they do have the inner track. They have to focus on the ramp for against BLG.
And SOFM just says, thank you for starting up the dragon here. BLG do not want to just let it go. J-Way stepping up. That's the dragon already gone to SOFM. Does he go down too? The Onslaught of Shadows gets him over the wall. Aiming has gone crazy. Aiming has gone for the kills. He goes for the killer instinct, but he cannot find what he was looking for. And again, Suning, get out.
Yeah, that was so clean from them. They had Angel on the spot first, and it's actually fairly difficult for BLG to dissuade them. They have to use the Alistar sort of as this crowbar to break through the composition, but at the same time, there's a lot of zoning potential from Suning, and they just caught BLG in a really awkward position. They had them on the ramp, where Rel could just engage on them with the Magnetic Storm. So BLG were zoned completely away from that objective. They come in a little bit late. You can see Aiming is trying to get an early game advantage. That was a very desperate play with the killer instincts, or rather a risky play, and it just doesn't pay off. Now they're in an awkward spot where J-Way has to go back, and I think this lane has been very solidly a win for Hwanfeng, even with losing that flash early game.
Yeah, just keeping the priority up there as well. Keeping the pop shots in is what I love to see. And you are getting a reset now from SOFM. Meteor was making his way towards the top side of the map. We do still have the Rift Herald available for SOFM and Suning. It's getting close. About a quarter left on the timer there. See where he's going to be able to use that one. But Ben just trying to buy some time on the top side. It does look like it could be the focus down towards mid or bot with that objective.
Yeah, I wonder if BLG should have gone for... Oh, Ben actually misses out on the ultimate. Pretty nice thundering blow there from BuBu. I was kind of wondering if BLG should have gone for an early Herald play. Because they have double prior in their solo lanes, and if they just fold that into the Herald, they might have had a good pick. Now it might be a little bit too late.
Clement, I'm eating my words here because SOFM says he wants to go top lane. A Ben almost goes down, but the Onslaught of Shadows is going to help him secure that kill. Make sure that Ben doesn't go down, and that is the second kill for SOFM's Hecarim.
That was a pretty nice assisted suicide coming in from SOFM as he walks BuBu underneath the tower. And I think the day of the Jace has been over. You know, he is called the man of tomorrow, but I don't think there is a tomorrow to look forward to. I'm sorry,
tomorrow
Jace.
ain't looking so bright. It's a little bit doom and gloom. Oh, they get the re-engage though on SOFM. The charge is going to go through, but have they found Angel? Angel's able to just use the Rip Walk out of there. BuBu misses the accelerated shock blast there onto SOFM. Does get a lot of damage back onto him though. BuBu and BLG are just trying. They're clawing at getting something in this game, Clement, but it's not coming.
At least they did force away the gold from going on to Angel. I think that's mainly what the play was about. I didn't see them having a very good opportunities to actually get a kill there, but they prevent the Castellan from getting too much gold. However, in the meantime, Hwanfeng was actually just playing PvE. He got to free hit on the tower for like 2 waves. And this is pretty interesting from Hwanfeng. We're actually seeing a Gale Force out of him. It typically has been the full damage build with the Kraken Slayer, but this time around, he's feeling confident enough to actually go for a bit more execution.
And I wonder if that, I mean, I think you have a little bit of tankiness on the side of BLG, right? You still have J-Way on the Alistar, who's a monster, and Udyr does get to that point, especially if you're building into the more defensive style builds. But I like this, right? I mean, you've got to deal with an Azir. You've got to deal with a Kai'Sa. You've got to deal with a Jace. They aren't the tankiest. They do need to be repositioned on them. You have to be able to think quickly and try to find your way around and find those solutions. I think that for the Jinx, yes, it's not necessarily the Kraken Slayer, not that insane sustained damage that we typically have, but I think in the moments, in the right mechanical hands, especially in Hwanfeng's hands, this is going to be huge.
The way I'm reading this Gale Force is actually it's to go forward. This is not a defensive Gale Force.
I like it. I like it. Hey, make sure you get those kills. That's all that matters.
He actually has enough frontline where even if BLG focuses him, I think BLG actually just all die. So this is more of a I need to get excited as quickly as possible Gale Force.
I like it. Hey, we'll see which side of the Gale Force we see. Is it the smiley face or is it the sad face in the defensive plays? But as you said, I would like to see him kind of use this, express himself a little bit with that Gale Force. But we do have mythic items coming across the board, especially for BLG, having gotten a lot of those completed, having a little bit of a power spike to themselves, even though they are down in gold. It's nothing to kind of walk away from, right? You're only down about 1.5k. It's not too crazy, although if you keep letting objectives go down, things get a little bit more dire as SOFM does start up the second Rift Herald of the game. Looks like it's just going to be traded for their first dragon, at least for BLG's first dragon, as we do see this wonderful split screen.
Yeah, I love what the LPL production has been giving us this
so
season.
Clean.
You can even tell the timers like just side by side who actually gets the faster clear into this one. But once again, I do favor Suning's build here a little bit more. I don't think BLG ever get to, like, even if BLG get the Dragon Soul, if they are going that late into the game, it's pretty much over for them anyway. So the immediate gold for Suning is going to come out of a little bit more handy, and they are going into the 1-3-1 siege. BLG has to flash away.
I just love how fast Hecarim can get with this 2 combo. It's so disgusting, man. Even though BLG gets away from that one, it's like you see that coming on your screen, you have a little heart attack, Clement.
Yeah, it's 150% extra move speed coming out from the Turbo Chem Tank and devastating charge. It really hurts on that first auto attack as well, and BLG cannot be left anywhere on the map alone to hold his own lane. He will just get charged down. I will say though, BLG actually have a pretty good tower trade on both sides, though these are elongated lanes. I think Suning were willing to make that trade because BLG, there's actually very little they can do with these two long lanes. You can't really push as BLG right now, and you can't really push as Zika because SOFM can just show up and instantly pop you on either of these side lanes. So it's kind of a moot point. It's a bit of a gold, but BLG don't actually get any map advantage from these two side lanes going down.
And it looks like we're just getting some roaming parties out here from Suning. They sticking Huanfeng in the mid lane, sticking both ADCs in the mid lane, just to be a little bit of a farm fest, and then moving as a group, trying to find those little advantages in the jungles, trying to get that vision game up a little bit more. I feel like it's been a little cautious so far from both sides, not necessarily trying to push up that vision game as much. I think we've seen a little bit more from BLG at this point, but with a bit of a lead and still like looking to scale up into the future, right? I feel like Suning needs to batten down those hatches, get some of that vision game down, especially as we're going to be coming up with more objectives.
Yeah, you can see Suning themselves, they're actually very comfortable about just putting Huanfeng here without any vision around the mid lane.
I know, it's crazy.
It's kind of funny because they know that Jace and Azir can't actually collapse. Like there's no engage on the two solo laners, so they're willing to kind of just let him push this blind. So you'll be fine. You'll be fine. It's totally okay.
Everything is fine. We do have the split pushing right now from Suning. They had both solo members in the side lanes while BLG was trying to make a play in the mid lane. Not going to have the siege that they wanted to. And there's the second Rift Herald spawn just in mid lane off the back of BLG siege. And now, like they're trading places, Clement, Suning is in the mid lane with all 5 members.
And this time they don't have the poke and range for Jace coming in. Mid lane tower about to go down. It's actually pretty well defended by BLG. If that mid lane tower went down, I feel like the map would be way too wide open. Suning could start going into the jungle at this point, and at least they're able to hold on to that for a little while longer. But the lane allocations right now are a little bit tricky for BLG. Most likely they want Azir, who has the most wave clear in the mid lane, but that also means sending Amy, who is under-leveled compared to the rest of the map, into these solo lanes against something like a Kassadin.
Yeah, it's not necessarily where you want to be. You have a couple tools to get yourself out of dodge, but it's not going to mean much when you're up against the Kassadin or even SOFM's Hecarim, right? We already talked about BLG getting caught out. I feel like Kai'Sa is a little bit more of a juicier target, a little bit of easier target as well.
Yeah, I think the story of this game so far is just BLG losing sight on where their draft wants to go and picking the Azir away from
It's the
Suning.
2 eyes. They needed the chameleon. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I think they would have been much better served with red side last pick on Zika and just go for an early game strategy that actually focuses down people and just go for, like, going for blind Jace is fine. Like, you'll get an advantageous matchup regardless if it's last pick Jace or if it's 4th pick Jace. So BLG just dropping the ball on that one, and they now have this really unwieldy composition where they didn't get much done early, and they're going into this late game where Zika pretty much is the only saving grace here. Zika has to be the lord and savior for BLG and their playoff hopes.
Luckily, he's an emperor in this game. He's definitely trying to bring up the slack in this one, and I do like that he's been able to develop a bit of a lead in CS. Obviously, no kills yet to BLG, which honestly is mind-blowing to think that we're over 20 minutes. There's only been 2 kills, but that's a point for a different time, Clement, as we're zooming in on how BLG can make a stand here in this one, find that advantage for themselves.
I'm just looking at what they're trying to do here. They're trying to get a big win onto this next Drake fight, and they could definitely do it if BBU finds a couple more poke opportunities like that one. But they need to play this one slower. Oh no.
That's what I'm worried about though, Clement, is you engage like that, you put yourself out dangling on a wire, and Suning are gonna gobble you up. They see the engage miss from J-Way, they immediately turn it around, get the re-engagement there, take a couple kills, and now they're looking at their 2nd dragon.
Yeah, I think that was inexperience from J-Way. You definitely don't need to go in there. You should allow Zika and allow BBU to get more poke before fully committing. He goes in, the team basically hands over the Drake, and Suning continue to snowball with the better scaling composition. We are tick-tocking down to level 16 Cassidy, and it's gonna come pretty soon.
And I just can't believe there hasn't been more action until we get to level 16 Cassidy. Like, I feel like there needs to be something going on for BLG at this point, but it's just 4-0 right now in terms of Suning's lead with 2 dragons under their belts. It is an Ocean Soul this time around again, so we'll see some resurgence maybe in the later parts of the game. But yeah, this initial miss by that Rift Walk over the wall by Angel.
Yeah, we mentioned this a lot of times. Suning definitely have the better front-to-back 5v5, and the way you want to play against it, BLG desperation play right on replay.
The big brain play! They take the Baron! Okay, now they need to get out of here, Clement, because I don't even know where we're at anymore. I feel like we're in an alternate reality where BLG just burned down the Baron out of nowhere. And maybe BBU goes down here. Yeah, he's going to get flashed out. They don't want to let as many of these Baron buffs get out. They do punish 1 member, but that's still 4 Baron buffs strong on BLG.
That relieves a lot of pressure for them, and they will be able to hold their side lanes against the 1-3-1 from Suning. So what it means is that BLG, I think they get a lot of opportunities to siege right now. We are seeing the pings going down. They're going straight for the mid lane tower, and they don't have to worry about the side lanes because they can answer with these empowered minions anywhere. They're not going to be getting pushed in by Angel or by Bin, so they're going straight for the siege. I love this idea, but they are missing their main siege tool though. They really need BBU to get the damage and to make sure that they get a solid advantage here. They will pop the Sun Disc going down, but this next tower, I don't think they can actually go into that territory on the map. It's a little bit too easy for On to pop over a wall and get a good engage on them. So yeah, they don't really go forward with it. Instead, they're looking for the jungle skirmish.
So I will say in that instance, right, while we're potentially getting a fight before everything is set up, like, man, the call to go with the Kai'Sa double item power spike with Zeke on the Azir double item power spike to burn down the Baron, that's just a heads up play if I've ever seen one. And now BLG have put Suning a bit on the back foot, but how long is that going to be there? Because you have SOFM going in, has to use Onslaught of Shadows out as a defensive tool, but you still have Huanquang almost full health, almost gets the kill with the Mega Death Rocket. It was so close, but Zika gets out.
23 HP onto that one, and the siege continues for BLG. They have to run away from this one though. I feel like without Zika and his TP and Hecarim being that much closer to the base, they have to be super careful about this engage.
Still have some Baron up minions coming down. BBU is big caught there. Huanquang coming on the side here. There's the re-engagement. There's the damage down. Suning are taking the fight. Yeah, they've got aiming off on the side all by his lonesome. He took the tower, but the team is done. What? The team is gone. J-Way and BBU are down.
I don't understand why BLG would stay in that position. Hecarim going low doesn't matter. He can come back on the map. He is a fast pony. Meanwhile, Zika doesn't have his TP. Like he's not going to be able to arrive there on time. So they just handled over 2 kills for Suning. That's that was a really weird chase down from BLG. Definitely not what I expected them to do. They should have waited just a little bit longer.
just walks in here. Like he just casually walks into the fight while they're already engaged.
He's in vision too,
and
so
there's no focus.
Yeah, BLG actually decide to go in on this one without their mid laner, and Suning just punished them. Funfang right now getting another 2 kills is not good for the health of BLG.
Definitely not. I do want to say, as we come back to live, Meteor has just burned his flash, so will not be available. No flash bear stuns, no bear slaps coming out of the other end of the flash. So we'll see how that works out for him. But I have to say, like, when you go into the enemy jungle like that, you're feeling confident. You're like, okay, we got the Baron buff, we're pushing, and it turns around. This is what happens. You lose that confidence. You give it over to Suning, and Pew's just deleted off of Summoner's Rift, and now you've got 5 against 4. BLG on the back foot.
Oh, this Jace pick is so useless. Doesn't get anything done early, and he's just a sitting duck when you have Hecarim and the engage coming out from Kassadin. Angel's willing to go super deep. He has that stopwatch. They get the first pick, and they're looking at a super easy Drake Ocean Soul coming up in 5 minutes. This one is the best soul if you want to go for a 1-3-1 strategy. It's so hard for BLG to actually dislodge. And if you look at their engage, they don't really have that much. It's very telegraphed. They have to have J-Way and Meteor just run at people to try to shut down these solo lanes. So Suning almost never have to group. Even when they have the better 5v5 team composition, they can choose to only group on the objectives and 1-3-1 out this entire game.
And especially when you're talking a little bit about those objectives, right? You mentioned the 4.5 minutes or so till Dragon spawns. That's soul for Suning, and that's not where BLG want to be. You talk about the tools that you can get in the siege, the amount of pressure that Suning has been able to put on without being responded to. And this is SOFM just calling the play way ahead of time.
This is so funny. He comes from underneath the enemy tier 2 tower, and there's nothing Pew can do. Super Mega Death Rocket plus the Void Rift coming in from Angel just takes him down immediately. I really would have preferred a tank on BLG's composition, but so far the only ones that can take the damage is probably Alistar.
Yeah, that's the big cow is going to be the only saving grace of that. Although Big Cow's caught, he does get the double knock up there. SOFM goes over the wall. You have everybody else joining. That was so nice. Just displaying some of the peel back tools that Suning have. Almost a big play for BLG. Almost their first kill, but no, it's not going to come just yet.
It's going to be sad to see if BLG go for an early game snowball composition and end the game with 0 kills. That will be very, very tragic. They're en route for that to happen. We're going to be checking in onto Angel once more. The tier was a relatively slow tier. I do want to mention his build. He actually went for an early Doran Shield, just a little bit more defensive, and Hecarim goes straight in.
SOFM face checks into 5 members, but that is a huge Mega Gnar ulti, and it changes the fight. Funfang is still full health, Clement. There's nothing you can do against this monster of a man, as that's a triple kill for Angel and an absolute total wipe of BLG.
That was a perfect explanation of the draft difference. We have to remember BLG aren't even that far behind in gold, but their compositions do not favor teamfights. What happened there was Suning nearly lost 2 of their frontliners straight off the bat. Hecarim didn't even get his ultimate off. He didn't do anything. SOFM just charged in and died, unfollowed, was nearly killed, and they still have another frontline in Bin to get a 4-man knock against the wall, and it was just cleanup duty from then on.
Funfang is literally just shooting fish in a barrel at that point. He's got the Rune Hands, he's got the Lord Dominix, he's got the Gale Force. He is popping off. And we're going to dive into that fight a little bit more.
BLG were only 1k down with a first kill, and the team fight still went disastrously for them.
Look at that damage. Oh my god. All 3 of those health bars just getting chunked by Fishbones.
Yeah, the AoE crowd control was way too good. You also have Angel just coming in with the triple kill at this point, so that's pretty much going to be game. But hey, at least BLG got their first kill.
They got a kill! Yay! They did it! And it was on SOFM, one of the fan members. He didn't have it, you know, it feels good at least you get something back for that one.
Yeah, it's going to be a short-lived celebration as I think Suning are finally
Hey, we celebrate all night long, Clement. That's a kill, all right.
A kill is a kill. I think we're just going to see Suning just siege down onto one tower at this point. They do have the Baron buff, but with this composition, it's actually very powerful in small chokeholds like that. It's very difficult to avoid the Mega Gnar ult, and that's one of the most underrated aspects of Gnar. When you're sieging tier 2s, you look at this terrain, it's almost impossible to not get stunned up on one of those walls around that tier 2 tower. So I think Suning will just play a 4-1, try to fold into one of these silence and start stripping these towers down.
I'm looking for SOFM finding those cheeky ganks, those cheeky invades, those cheeky flanks here that he's had all game long, just knowing where the advantages lie, knowing where the deficits lie for BLG and taking complete advantage of that. When you have 20 seconds or so until this dragon spawns, it will be the soul for Suning if they can secure it.
We also have the Cosmic Drive Angel coming out, so a lot of auto attacks are actually going to be available for him. BB is once again the target, no flash on him.
Okay, SOFM thinks better of it that time around. BB still almost dies to the Super Mega Death Rocket, but it's not going to be there.
Yeah, this is your Jace, you know, early game champion. Late game not really his forte, while Suning just take away casually this Ocean Soul. And we have Kassadin level 16. Here we go. This is kind of the gravy train now for Suning. I wonder what sort of an engaged BLG are looking for. They have to try and crack one of these side lanes before Suning groups.
Yeah.
At this point, I don't think they can take any sort of 5v5 with confidence, so they have to be on the front end onto this one. They have to try and find sort of the game, and it's going to come down to J-Way. J-Way has to be the one to get sort of the shutdown kill, but it's also really difficult. It's against Kassadin at this point with Zhonya's.
Yeah. You're not going to be able to get him in the side lanes. It's going to be almost impossible to do, and you see BLG a bit split, right? They were looking to try and take down the side lane. Maybe they all pull back to the mid lane. But you still got a great advantage from Suning, and they could just take this tower right from under your nose.
They also can disregard the poke at this point. They have triple Ocean Dragons, so BB is going to be doing essentially negative damage at this point. BLG cannot try to dislodge them with any sort of poke. They actually just need to find a catch in the side lanes, and that's even that is close to being beyond their reach.
Yeah, because you're starting to see, you know, Suning know that, right? They're starting to just bring it all together. They want to keep Huanfeng in the back line. They've done so beautifully. They're getting the split push there by Bin occasionally, but a lot of times it's bringing that pressure back to mid, utilizing the advantages that they have where they're pulling BLG across the map and being able to get some more of those objectives. As we see now, they have that inhib in mid lane that's going to be getting the super minions down. That's going to give them that much more priority in that mid lane. It's going to force BLG to focus a lot more on mid lane, and that's where you see the transition to maybe some side lane pressure, some side lane split pushing by Suning.
I think the main adjustment here from Suning is they are sending Gnar with the rest of the team, so playing a 1-4 and just letting Kassadin be the side lane split push. Gnar is still fairly important because he doesn't have the stopwatch. He can be targeted out a bit easier, and in Mega Gnar he's also the tanky member. He has engaged potential, so it will be a little bit safer in this setup compared to Gnar on the split push. And it looks like Suning are playing just for the Baron catch. Everfrost does go down.
Angel had TP the mid lane, maybe a call from the team. SOFM getting engaged on here, but you still got to be careful with the backline. SOFM is strong, but you've got to worry about Angel. You've got to worry about Huanfeng, and they haven't been able to find that just yet. And it's still, even though they were able to get some damage onto SOFM, not going to be anything that BLG can pull away. They're still sitting on that one kill.
Oh, we are going to see opportunistic catch on trying to get Zika, but Zika, that was very easy for him to get out. He just uses the shifting sands. Doesn't even have to flash onto that one. So a bit of an early trigger pull from Suning, and I don't feel like they need that necessarily. They could play this a little bit slower, get that top lane tower down. There's honestly no one defending it at this point. And they could let that top lane wave do a lot more work for them by just pushing that in. But it looks like Suning are getting a bit hasty on this one. They want the game to end right here, right now.
Nope, they don't want to go for that one. They want to go for the kills. The Mega Death Rock in his back. That's the Onslaught Shadows in the back. SOFM bringing him back to the front too, as that's going to be a lot of damage being put down from Suning, and that's just the health bars gone from BLG, and that's just the game won by Suning as they're taking it under even more towers. As Angel's going to chase down aiming. Couple more Rifts walks will do it. The Everfrost actually going to seal the deal there, as everybody is down for BLG, and Suning have an open Nexus ahead of them after taking down a couple more of these towers. But that excited is going to come through for Huanfeng. The lead is going to come through for Suning, and they will bring us to 1-0 match point.
Oh, this is so tough for BLG. We talked about this series was really about the AD carries and their preference of champions. Suning being the late game macro team, they love the Jinx pick. On the other hand, Amy likes to play aggressive early, so he goes for more of the Kai'Sa. But in this game, we saw that BLG didn't really fully commit. I was really disappointed in the draft. I felt like they had a chance to go full in on the early game, but they sort of pulled back with the Azir pick. They wanted some late game insurance, and they had some early game priority, but it wasn't enough. They really didn't transfer it into the jungle. SOFM even came out pretty decently with objective control, and with his farm, he wasn't really put behind whatsoever. And once you get into the team fighting phases of the game, BLG just don't have a team fighting composition. Even with the Azir, their composition is not meant for 5v5s. We could see in the mid lane engage, they were only down 1k, and it was a complete wipe. It wasn't even anywhere close.
That's what's so crazy to me. And I do like the point you're making of like that split focus in the draft. They were going for a little bit of that late game insurance policy. That insurance policy was technically there, right, Clevitt? Like he had a huge CS differential. He was the one that was actually feeling still okay in the matchups, in the fights. But when you're up against a stacked team who has kills spread across the board, who has gold in a lot of the pockets that really matter, your Azir performance is not going to do as much as you would want it to.
And they had to have thought about the casting. I feel like that's probably something that slipped their mind a little bit. If you're going for scaling, you don't try to outscale a cast at level 16. So, you know, it's like they're trying to buy insurance for cancer, but really their life expectancy is something like 25. So it's a very slow game for them. Meteor not really getting it done early. Udyr falls off tremendously in the late game. He barely inches out the support in terms of damage at this time. And once again, Suning with late game macro, this is kind of their style. They don't like to rush things early. They are more on that side of just playing the front to back team fight.
Yeah, and 18-1 on the score line there. It feels really good from game number one for Suning especially. But for me, what feels really good, we talked about him going into this series, but Huanfeng, right? Like his damage, his team fights, his positioning, him taking advantage of having that strong front line and still not getting targeted out, not getting burst down. And maybe that's a little bit on the target calling from BLG, but I still think his play in this was impeccable.
Yeah, BLG had a couple of chances to actually use their poke to advantageous situations. They should have been more patient, waited for Suning to actually be on the objectives first, but they sort of overshot their mark. This is one of those plays where they actually stayed too long. They had a good Baron steal. We do have to mention that one. It managed to elongate the game, but they gave over more kills, and Bubu in the late game was just complete liability. There's not much he can do on this composition. This is the critical team fight where you can actually see Suning losing two of their front lines early and still coming in with the win. Hecarim did nothing that fight, and they still win.
It's the that was the difference, right? And it was represented a lot in these fights, a lot of the things we saw in this one, and a lot of just the great play altogether from Suning, and that's what you want to see in this last week. And God, that Onslaught of Shadows where he's going in all by himself, but still manages to bring back the fight for his team altogether. Like that's just the nail in the coffin there for Suning.
What I love about this playoffs is everyone is coming in with their own trump cards, and it's super fun to see. You're seeing JD Gaming with the brawler comps, RNG with 80 carry top lane double flex, and you just have Suning with the just very standard hyper carry and late game focus for their competition. And it's going to be exciting playoffs for sure, as we have all these teams coming in and excelling at very different elements.
Yeah, it is going to be very exciting. We have more excitement ahead, though, as we're going to be diving into game number 2 after this short little break. Can BLG keep their dream alive? You got to hope so. We'll be right back.
It just feels like Victory 5 are grasping for straws here. They even have the TP being burned from Longxing. They got the charm, but it was only on to On, who's drawn back in with that Fate's Call. Wei had to be able to flash away, but they got the double knock if they need to, and they got a huge Nora into the wall, and they are eviscerating Victory 5. This might even be a clean ace if they're able to chase down Longxing, chase down Mole, but they will be able to survive to tell another day.
Oh my god, Munchables, it doesn't end!
Knight's in trouble, the stun comes in, he doesn't quite have the damage to finish it, Scatter the Weak, stuns onto the Shy, Knight and the Shy going head to head, and the Shy comes out on top!
The rest of the damage healers just burning down EDG.
And now we're back. We're doing this again.
Oh my god!
Everyone goes into the wall, drop down. RNG blow this game wide open. The Dragon was once, but Xiaohu does it again.
Because SFM doesn't need his jungle. He's got Xiaoheng's jungle. Oh my goodness. SFM now maybe has overstayed on this one. He actually got the crux with the dot from the red buff there.
Okay, the TP.
And now he's just going to turn on to Xiaofeng. Twilight TP'd in, but I think he's too late because SFM's already got a kill. And he's completely invincible. Look at him. He's still surviving. The heal's going to come through. Oh my days. He gets away with it again.
To go for an engage in mid, try to take that turret. Cryan clears the way, so they won't quite just get it, but a Magnet Storm is insane on top of the lilting lullaby. That was beautiful.
Cube, meanwhile, still bullying out, knowing that the rest of the team's not nearby. Hits the Shock Blast. Cube wants a solo kill. He flashes, waits for it from ZS. The electricity surges, and Cube solo kills to survive the minions. Needs to just dodge from the bullets. The minion's still hitting him. Cube! And the minion! That minion!
Welcome back, everyone. Here we are with the beauty that is beholden before you. Can BLG find that beauty here going into game number 2? We're hoping so, because we want to get to a game 3. I am Mazel, joined by Clement yet again. Suning, coming off an almost perfect victory last game, Clement. It feels real good to start the series off that way. And another person that's feeling real good right now is Hwanfeng, who will be our MVP for that first game.
Suning and Hwanfeng, they have been allowed to just go for Jinx every single game. It's a champion that they're very comfortable on, and in fact, we have heard from Suning they believe it counters out the Tristana pick too. So it's just a super strong pick. I think they're building their entire compositions these days based on the hyper carry potential from Hwanfeng when it goes into that 35-minute mark, when it goes into that late game.
That KP percentage, 94.4. My goodness, that is a KP to dream of. As even in the dark moments, even in the slight advantage that BLG was able to get, Hwanfeng was just able to outposition, able to help his teammates move forward with him and Angel as the key backbones.
Yeah, that was absolutely disgusting, and I like the fact that Hwanfeng is indexing into more of the teamfight-focused runes here. A lot of the Jinxes we've seen have been going for Conquerors just for a little bit more extra oomph in the early phases. It does give you AD compared to attack speed, but I love Lethal Temple. The massive amount of attack speed you get with that, 110% in the late game, and the fact that, you know, you can break the attack speed cap. You could do it anyway with the Excited, but it's just so insane on her as a champion. So I like this trend of just building around the late game focus for there, and I do think that the reason BLG we are going to see in game 2 swap over towards the blue side is to take away some of the hyper carries coming into this fight. I do think BLG are going to pivot their game plan now that they don't have counter pick potential into something a little bit more standard, a little bit more front to back. They were thinking about the Ornn last game as well, and I think they would have been much better served if they did go for it.
So I wonder though, right? Because I do feel like you still need to have something going on for you in the early game, at least maybe from the jungle position, and trying to keep down SOFM, because we saw how dominant he was when he was able to just path around the map when he wanted to, willy-nilly like. And so for me, like, I do think that it would be best for BLG to kind of go for a sure strategy, not something that's picking pieces from everywhere, but I still want to see that early game at some point, right? In some aspect of it, as we're going to be getting into that, the picks and bans at least for this game number 2, and see what the draft is going to be looking like. As we do have the first couple bans at least. BLG again on that blue side, Suning on the red. That is Zir from BLG going to be banned away. They don't want to take it. They don't want Suning to have it. Seraphine going to follow that one up. The Gragas banned away by Suning, as well as the Thresh.
So we are going to see TF and Galio, at least one of them is going to be open this time around. Galio's fallen off of favor quite a bit. Let's be honest, there's a lot of counter matchups against that champion. But so far, that has been BLG's sort of way to get the early game going. Zika himself is a very roam-focused mid laner. He is much more known for his champions, such as the Twisted Fate or the Galio. So I think one of the two at least will be open for BLG in this draft, and they're just taking away late game options for Suning right now. They said, you guys, you have been too comfortable on these compositions. You're gonna have to play something different, okay? And this time around, I think Suning, they will focus more on the top lane. As we have talked about, Gragas is BuBu's go-to safe blind pick, and without that, if he wants to go for the Gnar, there's a lot of different counters that you can throw at him.
And the Hecarim being picked up here for BLG is really good. You get a little bit of that aggression that I was talking to, a little bit of a bridge, if you will, to try and get that early game to the late game. But I still feel like you have so many options for Suning. Like, you still have the Udyr, which is still going to be a fine matchup into it. You can take it into the aggressive stance as well and even do better with it. And after that first game, like, the domination that can come out from an Udyr is so scary to me, but they don't get the Kai'Sa away, and Kai'Sa goes in for Hwanfeng.
I just want to say, this feels like Suning trying to teach BLG how to play the matchup. This is a watch and learn sort of game. If I had to pick the best Udyr in the LPL, I would go for SOFM. I think SOFM is actually the crazy Udyr that just steals away all your camps and is just constantly living in your jungle. And Suning are taking away most of the best picks right now from BLG. They're taking their Kai'Sa, they're taking their Udyr. This is super fun to watch, but it kind of hasn't hurt for BLG watching a team out-execute your best comp.
And I do like the Rel Tristana combo for BLG. Not necessarily. I thought maybe they were going to go for the Alistar with the Tristana, because I like that combo a little bit more. You can have a little bit more direction in it. But I still feel like, as you were talking about earlier, Rel is just kind of broken. So being able to get that piece for BLG is going to be really nice. But then you get the tried and true classic, the Kai'Sa Alistar on the other side too.
Exact same 3 picks that BLG went for in game 1. By the way,
yep.
Just want to mention that one.
Exactly the same.
BLG, like we mentioned, Jinx, Suning has said that it's a bit of a counter into Tristana. You outrange the champion throughout the entire game, and you also can stop the rocket jump with Flame Choppers, even though there's a bit of a setup time. So we have seen BLG just ban away the Jinx in order to get to this Tristana. They don't want to give Wanfeng his MVP champion going in next. And it does look like BLG are probably setting themselves up for a Gnar pick. Pretty much the exact same draft that we have seen from Suning in game 1 as well. They're going to ban away the Camille. I still don't really like early Gnar. I feel like things like Gangplank are still a little bit too good into the Gnar matchup earlier on. But with the draft currently, it does look like Coach Kim is still going to go down the Gnar path.
We do have a couple particular bans coming out here in the second phase. Suning take away the Sion, the Jace as well, and the Camille coming away from BLG.
Yeah, the tried and true blind picks across the LPL have been namely Sion, Renekton, and also Aatrox outside of Gnar. Those are kind of like the big 4 top lane blind picks that we see so far. And with Gnar open, it gives BLG a chance to go for something pretty aggressive.
They're going for the counter pick mid again, or at least, yeah, I guess again, because they were able to get the cats in the last pick last time around. My goodness, they're just giving Suning all the tools that they would want. I love the Gnar coming in for Ben. I want to see what BLG pick up here for their 2, right? I want to see what has this draft been leading towards for them, because you've got to find some strong pieces. And speaking of some strong pieces, I would love to see priority in the mid lane, something to really get them off the ground running.
Yeah, Lucian blind is a bit of a risky one, and this is the champion I wanted to talk about. Kennen has been BuBu's second go-to.
Yeah.
We have seen the champion priority, but his showcase on Kennen has actually been really, really poor. I don't think he's been doing a great job with his champion, and BLG right now, they're setting up an interesting draft. Okay.
All right. I like it. Hey, bring it on. You get Zika's TF, his most played.
Yeah.
One of it actually.
That's
yeah,
what
his
I wanted
most
to
played.
talk about, because it looks like for Suning the best pick is Syndra. It has pushback against the Lucian, and it's actually fairly difficult to play a lot of times for the Lucian. You have to stay ahead the entire way. But for BLG, they're willing to play Lucian in the bottom side. This is one of their specialties, is that they can actually flex a lot of different sides. So right now, of course, TF is committed towards the mid lane, and we're gonna see whether the Lucian or the Tristana go into either of these sides. They can actually play both. They do have pretty good matchups on both sides into this one, but it does look like for the time being that BuBu will be taking the Lucian into top instead.
And the last pick for Suning was the Gallia. So we still get the global or the semi-global map presence here from both mid laners. Maybe we'll get a lot of shenanigans in that aspect of it, but being able to have a bit of a double-edged sword here for BLG. They have a lot of high risk, high reward action gameplay.
Yeah, BLG, again, not drafting as I thought they would. I felt like they were just gonna go for front to back standard, but with the last 2 picks, they really blew the entire thing up. They're like, nope, it's actually early game. Guess again. So they have Twisted Fate going into the bottom side. They should get top lane prio with Lucian versus Gnar, at least in the early phases of the game before pre-6 coming in. So once again, they have a lot of priority. Every single lane they have is prio. It's very, very strong in terms of the push potential. I would say probably mid lane, not really. Winds of War is still very strong. On the other hand, I think I think Suning are going for a less ambitious comp. This is a much more bottom side, just focused draft. It has a lot of good pick pieces. You do have the Galio that can follow in onto the Udyr, and also Killer Instinct coming in. So this is a composition that I think we will see a lot of invades from SOFM, and the entirety of the rest of the team will be able to follow up, while BLG are doing sort of the same thing, but their focus is once again a little bit more split between having an aggressive top lane and also trying to get things done in the bottom side.
We'll see which plan comes to fruition, which team can come out on top as we dive into game number 2, BLG versus Suning.
Very aggressive top lane coming in from BuBu. You know, we have seen the Cole, we have seen the Doran's Blade, but he's going straight into max DPS.
Oh, okay, he's going to be able to dodge out of that one. I was about to say, this is about to end so badly for BLG to start it off with. But they do get the flash, so BLG going to have to be on the back foot towards the top side of the map.
They read BuBu like a book. They know he likes to go into the early brushes to get that chunk off on a Tanar. You can actually just pop out behind the minion wave and still get a favorable trade. And this time around, Bin is actually going for super interesting runes. We have seen this earlier against Lucian matchups. I think Jace matchups as well. But with the Hail of Blades, you not only trade quite decently with the auto attacks, you also are insanely powerful in Mega Gnar. Like that Mega Gnar auto attack buff with the extra AD is pretty terrifying if you get a stun.
Well, and especially even with it, like you're being able to trade even more in those short-term engages, and against BuBu on this Lucian, that's what Lucian is looking for. You know, trying to get the passive procs, trying to get the bits of burst damage in as quickly as possible, and you're able to counteract that somewhat with that Hail of Blades.
And taking a look at the jungle pass, once again, BLG are doing a good job at their early level 1s. They know where SOFM will start. And what we should be seeing here is BuBu, if he pushes the wave too far, it will require a Meteor to actually cover for him. So he's trying to find a good trade in before Udyr can show up. They know that Udyr is on the opposite side of the map, so he's fairly safe in these two lanes.
Aiming going in with the rocket jump just to make sure that Wanfong and On are paying attention down here. They're dealing with the Tristana, the Rel. They always need to be on their toes. But a lot of trading going down. Not going to end up in too much because of the rejuvenation, a little bit of healing coming through from the health potions as well. But I feel like Aiming and J-Way have been a really good point right now in keeping this priority down here and trying to help their team out as best they can in the early game.
Yeah, now we're going to see mainly on how the top lane plays this one out. We will see Meteor and BuBu probably just rotate off, peel off to go for the Scuttle rather than stay in lane, as SOFM is trying to find his way into Lucian. Lucian doesn't have the flash. They're going in.
Oh, almost gets the flash bear stun. Luckily, BuBu is able to go around the wall there. Still gets the splash there. BuBu is still an ADC, and he's still very low level. This is going to be a 2v1 opted into by Meteor. Can he turn it? Meteor is going to get the kill, but he goes down himself, and that's 2 quick kills for Suning. Mid lane, though, Angel takes a brunt of damage from Zeke on the TF. He's not going to go down just yet, and it will just be a bit of a more rambunctious early game, Clement, but 2-1 still in favor of Suning.
I'm kind of surprised that that would happen, given the fact that BLG had full vision on where SOFM started. They know that SOFM started bot side, they know that Lucian doesn't have flash, so I expected them to peel off and just secure the Scuttle, but they actually overstayed, and SOFM very easily gets the kill to go through. That's, even though it traded back, it's still massively in favor of Bin, and he even gets the double buffs.
That feels really good up there now against the Lucian. It's not going to be very fun for BuBu to deal with some of that pressure that Ben can have now, but bot lane, I was going to say, if Suning step up here, Meteor's right there to punish. Not going to happen, though. Just a little bit of trading back and forth.
Yeah, we're not going to actually see it come out the entire way. Both of the top laners actually elect not to use their TPs. So at this point in time, BuBu might still have a bit of an advantage here against Bin. And at least the double buffs wear off without much damage being done here. And We are going to see a top lane invade coming in from Suning, though. They are going to try and make this a vertical jungle style. Galio is almost going to tick 6, and we did talk about Suning, their ability to just close in on these fights very easily. So we should be seeing SOFM paying a lot of attention into that blue buff. I think that's where the next big fight is going to show up.
Yeah, it was set up for a bit of invading. Looks like it might have to take a little bit longer for that to come to light. But we do have a Infernal Drag on the board here for about 15 seconds now. Has come down onto the Rift, is looking to be taken down by one of these teams. But it's not going to be the Rift that you're looking for. We're not going to get the Infernal Soul this time around. But I would like to see some early objective focus from either one of these sides. And honestly, I would like to see it from BLG.
Oh, this is so damaging on the side of BLG. Meteor is actually caught out on the back, so they know he's not on this side of the jungle. They're going to be able to track him quite easily, and at the very least, SOFM might find this window to just punish BB once more, as he is heading towards directly into the top lane.
He's walking. It's like the Jaws theme song playing right now, except that BB doesn't know it. And it's slowly and surely going up that way, but it actually looks like Meteor is going to be trying to stop that one, trying to get into where he thinks that SOFM is pathing towards, and having J-Way just around the corner in the mid lane, just available if needed, has been a really nice answer from BLG.
Oh, the zombie wards, the Poro right there was so nice coming out from Suning. It actually forces On to take another path. He knows he's going to be spotted, and just the warding advantage from Suning is massive on this top side. It's going to allow them to get this extra scuttle, even maybe focus down onto the bottom side. It's really interesting as they're leaving the scuttle for Gnar, rather than trying to take it and snowball the jungle further.
And getting a bit of vision themselves is BLG's bot lane. But yeah, I think the heads up warding from Suning, getting Angel back there, getting the control ward over the wall, having a lot of that presence in the topside jungle against BLG is really important, as we're going to be getting to the Rift Herald at some point soon. But it is all teams focusing down towards this bot side.
Yeah, actually Gnar doesn't even finish the scuttle necessarily. We are going to see a pretty aggressive start from SOFM.
Yeah, they get the engage there as well. A lot of damage. The heroic entrance going to buy some time here. On is able to buy a lot for J-Way, but J-Way still goes down. And that's a nice little trade kill. You do get the jungler. SOFM going down is a big boon for BLG.
It definitely is. He just stayed alive so damn long. It forces BLG to overchase a little bit, and they trade back one kill at the very end. J-Way is the member going down there, and BLG, at least with this priority on the bot side, are getting something done. Also a pretty nice roam from Bubu, cover up that mid lane. He also gets a plate there, so overall still a pretty nice win for Suning. In the meantime, Suning don't actually get this blue buff just yet. It's about to come up, and you can see on the map that is the next target for them.
It is indeed. It should be, at least, as you get a little bit of that Scuttle Crab action going, a little bit of invade action going, and with Meteor really not able to respond at this point, just looking down towards his bot side. This will be SOFM getting a bit of that CS differential back in his court, but Meteor's going to be right back up there, and SOFM might be surrounded. They've sniffed him out.
Is he going to get out?
I don't know. Oh, nice move, Zico, but he's just going to go under the tower, and nobody's got a response. Okay, SOFM is a bear, he is a quick man, and he will survive.
The Vietnam sleeper agent strikes again, just going past the Gromp and avoiding all of the collapses right there. Very well done on his part. He only gets the Merc Wolves. He was going a little bit greedy on that one, to be absolutely honest. I felt like the blue buff is still more important, but you want to clear the entire side. And that's just SOFM doing SOFM things. He is the Prince of Thieves. He loves to steal away camps, but sometimes he can overextend a bit.
just a smidgen, Clippet, just a smidgen. That's you know, it's trying to feel out those advantages, try to feel out where you're strong. But I do really like seeing some of the pings at least coming down towards that Rift Herald right now. Has been alive for just a little bit, but I would like to see that tempo pace, or at least the pace, increase right now for either side. I do like that BLG is taking the onus to try and get some of that vision game around there, where, you know, Suning have been so good at keeping their vision up in predicaments that BLG definitely don't want to have on their map.
Yeah, looking forward into this game, though. We're going to see aiming in a lot of trouble.
That's a lot of damage. He's not going to go down just yet. Do they dive for this? SOFM looking for J-Way. SOFM looking for aiming. They get the 1 kill onto J-Way, but aiming is going to get burned down by SOFM.
Dies mid-jump. SOFM knows his damage numbers perfectly. And I was just about to say that Suning, their late game damage composition actually relied very heavily on Huanfeng getting ahead. They're not going to get a lot out of the Galio or the Mininar in most team fights. And that's when they strike. They know that they have to get Huanfeng a little bit more gold. He's one of their, like, basically he's going up against 3 DPS on the other side of BLG. And since they have full vision of the top side, Suning just go and play cross map. Really smart play there. They don't really care about that Herald, but keeping Huanfeng ahead is their main objective.
Yeah, as we're looking into that, it's just aiming getting bullied around at that point. And unfortunately, it's the same thing we've seen time and time again. Udyr just running at you, and eventually you will die. As he used the heal, he used everything to try and get out of that one. But SOFM is just too clean. I do like that BLG is able to get that Rift Herald. I know you said that Suning don't really care for that one, but at least it's an advantage in some aspect for BLG.
Yeah, they will go for the top lane most likely. I think BBU is fairly ahead at this point, as we are going to see Angel try to find a coordination with on there. And I just want to go back onto that replay where SOFM looked like he had such a leisurely stroll. He actually went back to put a little bit more damage onto J-Way before then realizing, oh, actually you guys got this. I can go for the kill.
My target is there.
He doesn't even try to finish off the kill. He knows the burn and the red buff is enough to just get it. So really well done on his part. Really nice cross map play. And now we are going to see Meteor be the focus of attention here.
God, that's so much damage in such a short amount of time from a Gnar. And that's not what you want to see from Meteor, who's just strolling along, as you're saying. We're keeping the theme going, but he gets aggressed on during his stroll. As it's not really where the focus can be. Although I was going to say that SOFM was staying topside. I thought they might try to dive View, but that might not be the greatest call.
We see SOFM actually pinging out the position on Meteor that is blind. He just sort of knows based on where the pathing has been, usually from bottom to top the entire time. Well, yeah, when you see a jungler full clear basically every wave, it's not exactly, rocket science to kind of guess where they're going. So Suning's bot lane will at least back off a little bit more. They don't want to give them that potential kill into the Herald charge onto the bottom side. That would be pretty massive in terms of getting and setting up the next Drake over. So they'll just pull back a little bit, make sure they get everyone onto this next fight in the right position.
That is the key to the puzzle, key to the box, key to the treasure chest, if you will. But the dragon is going to be started up here by Suning. This will be their first dragon. The first one had been taken by BLG, but this is an ocean dragon going over to a team that's pretty ahead and not necessarily looking for too much at the moment. I would like to see, I was going to say, I was hoping for maybe a little bit of the mountain dragon in this case for the soul, but we're going to be getting the cloud soul, Clement. And a lot of focus into the top side.
Yeah, BBU actually mistraded that very terribly, and now Angel is on the chase.
He popped Ghost, he popped Devastating Charge, but BBU is the one that dies because Meteor gets out of dodge, and that feels so bad for BBU.
He doesn't even get any of the gold here, so the reason that I said that they should drop this Herald into the top lane was, number one, it's already very low, and Lucian is one of those matchups. He's either very far ahead or he's very far behind. There is no in-between. He's feast or famine as it comes. So you want to get BBU a little bit healthier onto that top side, make sure he's landing on the right foot. But BBU actually just took 2 tower shots there. It got traded on very heavily by Bin, probably underestimated the hail of blades, and that Herald essentially is wasted because you didn't get the gold on the member you needed it on.
Yeah, it's a bit unfortunate how things kind of peter out towards the top side for BLG. But Suning are feeling really good at the moment. I think the bright spot for me it has been Zika in the mid lane. You know, on this TF, he hasn't been involved as much as maybe you would like to. We didn't see like the immediate pull downs for the Destiny gate and being able to just always joining Meteor. But he's been staying stable in the mid lane. He's been staying stable against Angel. He's been keeping Angel at least a little bit in the mid lane, and so that takes away some of that map pressure that Suning can have.
Yeah, we're going to take a look at that top lane once more. Oh, this is already when he's taken the tower shots already and zoned out completely. I'm not sure why we're focusing on this. that seems like a weird place to be focusing on the replay, but congratulations to the Herald. They do get the first tower.
They got the tower!
And I don't think they got any gold for it because it wasn't local. That's localized gold.
Yeah, it's a little fortunate. But, you know, it's the little things. All right, and the Rift Herald, that's confidence booster for the Rift Herald. Angel actually caught here, though, and Jayway comes over the wall, too. Gets the flash out, but On tries to get the headbutt. Meteor's there. There's the Destiny gate coming in. Suning are actually in some trouble here, but can they get the follow? Bin's on the back line. Meteor's just gone. The split focus from BLG is going to be their doom here as the heroic entrance comes in, too, and Suning off of the back of another play that BLG tried to attempt is just going to come away whole-handedly with it. They take a double kill for Ben, make it 3 all the way, and Suning have ballooned this gold lead at 16 minutes.
BLG blow all of their ultimates trying to kill Angel, and Angel without an aftershock actually manages to survive there. My head hurts so much. I can't believe he was able to get out. It was Onslaught of Shadows, Destiny Gate on him, and there was a culling following him out. And he still survives that. I'm not even sure how he survived that. There was no heal on the side of Suning, but he just gets out alive. Just without even much of a scratch, and then BLG are just finding themselves massively overextended up into the ramp. We're gonna watch that again. Angel with a very nice flash to get out. Remember, he's playing a pure roam Galio, so no aftershock, no extra tankiness stats. He just walks out of it.
Look at him. Well, it's immediately BLG realizing that they're in a bad spot, right? I feel like after that initial engage where Jayway misses that crash down, you pull back on that one because they already know that you're fully committing. You see all the members pursuing coming down around, and as soon as BLG realize they've overstepped, they're pulling back. You still have Meteor in the front, a bit of miscommunication there, and it just all ends up in Suning. And now, back in live, we've got Suning doing the Rift Herald here.
Another massive lead for Suning once again, and that was just so disheartening to actually see out of BLG. I definitely agree with you. Like you mentioned, once Jayway doesn't find the pick, it's pretty much time to go back. You know, you can reset this one, but they overchase into the jungle. Really nice collapse and TP coming in from Bin to section away that one. And I want to see if BLG can actually use some Destiny Gates to find Bin at this point. Maybe that's where they want to get most of their action going. The soul lanes are still rather open here, but there's no one defending mid lane tower. Amy can't step up by himself against this one. It would fall to the Herald regardless, but they're just giving Suning some extra charges to work with here.
And that also means the Suning can just find a tier 2 or maybe even go back towards the top side of the map. I would expect them to go maybe for one of these tier 2s to that Rift Herald, but they are already looking at this dragon. This is going to be second dragon of the game for them, and this sets them up for getting into that objective goal that we set out for both of these teams, having gotten a couple of these under their belt, having split a couple of the objectives, but now next 5 minutes, you know, it puts them on sole point.
Yeah, I don't want to say BLG have a worse late game. I think it's definitely possible for them to still claw a win. Their front line in Rel and Hecarim is pretty much the tier 1 front line you can draft yourselves. But at this point, it comes down to the damage and the extra carries that they have on their side. BuBu is not where he wants to be. This is a counter matchup that they selected for themselves, and right now he's actually even down in CS against Bin. So Lucian is sort of that feast or famine factor. He's not going to be outputting a lot of damage, and I don't think he even has a chance to catch up this game. The same thing can kind of be said of Zika. He's not going to dish out massive damage compared to something like the Galio and the Udyr just rushing in at you. So BLG right now, they pretty much, even though they have a lot of carries, they pretty much need to wait for Amy to be the one to form up. I don't think they really want to entertain fights until 2 items coming out from that.
No. Meteor was just hoping to wait in the bush, not get caught out there. He's going to get taken down very, very low as SOFM moves in to take the blue buff. The little note that I was going to make is Suning are just on point yet again with their vision control. They have vision all over the enemy jungle. They know exactly where Meteor is going to be pathing to. You see it unfold there. They knew he was in the top side of the jungle. They move in with a couple extra members. Meteor can't do anything.
Absolutely nothing he can do. He's getting his jungle strip mined once again, not only by the opponent SOFM, but also just his own teammates at this point. And I feel like Suning can actually play the 1-3-1 game quite well. They have a really good potential. Ooh, we're seeing the damage exchange coming out right there. Huanpeng does stay alive throughout that trade. And once again, Suning do have actually a very good 1-3-1. They can collapse into the jungle quite easily. They do have that semi-global coming out from both Angel and Huanpeng to make use of. So once they push all 3 lanes across the river, I think that's where you're going to see the objective fights get even more dirty than they are right now.
Yeah. We do get that second charge off on the second tier tower too in the top side for Suning. So a lot of damage put onto that one. And what I'm starting to get worried of is that we're going to see a deja vu from game number 1, right? Where BLG were trying to force objectives, trying to force fights where maybe they didn't necessarily have to. And yes, they were at a very much different deficit last game around, but I don't want to see them getting caught in these positions again. We've already seen that Suning are so good at picking apart those team fights, and you've got some pieces that are working towards being set up. You've got 2 items on the Tristana, a couple items on the TF, but you still need to make sure you're setting yourselves up the best you can for those fights, and that means not being put on the back foot.
Yeah, and they have pretty limited targets right now that BLG can actually catch. We have Zhonya's completed by Angel, and you don't really want to go on or SOFM. So it pretty much leaves Huanpeng with Cleanse as their best target at this point.
Yeah.
Not exactly an easy one to get to at that either. So Suning just trying to play the catch game right now. They're just clearing vision again and again. And we do have this Predator Gallia with Shirelia's Battle Song that can charge into your formation and still stay alive afterwards.
That's the little extra pieces that come through are so big for me, and I want to see how this kind of next little fights will play out. I will mention, I don't know, maybe you could call me crazy, the Chem Punk for on the Alistair. I like it. I know it's a little bit late in the game, but come on, it's fun.
Yeah, they're fully indexing into catch. I think the way that Suning will play this next one is they're keeping vision in the enemy jungle, and if Zika is left on the left side of it, they'll probably just jump in onto him.
They have found SOFM, but I'm not going to follow it up there. You see what that leads to. You use the Destiny Gate, you get in front of his face, you hit him with the yellow card, but there's no follow.
I will say that's actually decent for BLG because they do get most of the river vision back with Destiny Gate, just making sure that no one's in the brush. So I wouldn't take the results of that yellow card onto SOFM. That looked kind of pointless, but they actually get their full value out of that play. They do make sure that, hey, no one's actually going to death brush us, so we can just walk in and make sure we maintain vision.
Try and get some of those jungle camps back, but now I would have liked to see a little bit more setup towards the bot side for BLG. Clearing that vision at the top side feels good and dandy. You got Dragon Soul Point coming up for Suning. Unless you're trying to trade that Baron, then it's going to be a bit tough to reposition down there, although they're still sticking to the top side.
Yeah, I like what Suning are doing here. They have the rotational advantage on the map, so they're trying to play 2 sides at the same time. What they can do is they can actually just leave on here and pull Angel and Huanpeng back into the other side of the map. They don't have to really commit to either side. They have full vision control at this point. They've just cleared out the bottom side with SOFM going in, and they will take essentially both objectives at the same time. So they've learned their lessons from game 1. If you focus on one, then maybe they'll get the other. Oh, bye, Bew.
Oh, Bew. Oh, goodness. That is not the play. That is not the time. That is not the death that you would want, as it does not befit a fallen warrior. As that was a good call from Suning, honestly. Being able to capitalize on Bew being caught. He still had flash. He still had everything, but the damage is too quick.
Yeah, the movement speed really good with the Shirelia's Battle Song, and that will be the Baron call for Suning incoming. BLG, they have to steal this one. We have seen crazier things happen before. think it's gonna come down to Zika and Meteor if they can get the
Suning are
spikes.
just too good.
Oh,
BLG
no.
on the wrong side of the map, Clement. They gotta get back home. They gotta get home. They can't do it though. JWay is completely caught here. You get the late TP coming in from BuBu. He's able to turn the fight a little bit though. Meteor's on the back line. The calling comes through, but Meteor's already gone. And that's a double kill for Hwanfeng as BuBu's damaged. BuBu's late try at something in that fight did not come to anything. And that's Suning right back on the Baron.
Yeah, Suning have such great turn potential. You mentioned all this already, but the Turbo Chem Tank is there. SOFM is kind of close to falling down right there. He finally keeps himself alive, and we are going to see Zika. He does have the Smite plus the Flash.
Oh,
this
no.
could be the turnaround. But the jungler is reset. So Suning are actually losing a lot of HP on this one, and they know that Zika is somewhere on their back line. Can they find him is the question, though.
Oh, he barely misses the house. Okay, so the Baron is already taken. Zika's caught. That's the jump over by Ben and Hwanfeng, as that is 5 Baron buffs making it out, and another death going over to BLG.
Salute to Zika, you tried. Tried the best. I was waiting for it.
Go down with the ship, you will.
It's a very telegraphed play, but he did make Suning peel off for the Baron just a little bit. That was a good attempt there. Nothing more I could say about this one. But I feel like this game is just a microcosm of what went wrong with BLG this season. We sort of expected them to play around, never mind, more action.
You don't get a chance. Oh, poor BuBu! He just, somebody get him a Warmox just to give him the passive health or something, please! As he's just getting obliterated, and so is the rest of BLG. There is no hope. Full up Baron buffs. They're pushing in the second tier tower. Suning are looking for some lasting damage, as they're going to find Zika's too, as that's a lot of lasting damage if you can continue to snowball this into a victory. That's the inhib tower going down. Next is the inhib, and they have a full up wave pushing with them, and they have a lot of damage on these towers. The only question is, do we see them overextend a little bit? Do we see them try to fight for this KDA, if you will? But it looks like they're just going for the Nexuses. It looks like they're just going for the end. There's the re-engage. There is JWay going in. BuBu is trying to do some damage. They've lost one. It's a trade for each other. JWay over SOFM, but the second Nexus tower falls. They've still got 4 Baron minions, or 4 Baron buffs, and a cannon minion. Also, super minions now coming in. But is this where Suning back off? Is this where they decide to temper just a little bit and try to make it out? There's the yellow card going in, but it's not going to be followed up on. BLG a bit hesitant to follow up, but it is Suning who finally make it out of the base.
They nearly overextend on that one, but they have the sense in them to peel back at the very end. I was about to say that every dog gets its day, and Lucian's gonna come out with the culling, find the comeback. BLG Miracle Run still intact. But Suning are actually trying to close this one off very, very safely. We're going to take another look at this one. Before BuBu, there really was no wave clear, so I agree that Suning could have tried to just end the game there, but with the crack control onto Rel and BuBu getting a good calling off, Suning eventually do call it quits.
And you see, Suning's idea is just to run it right back up mid lane, keep them on their toes, keep this Baron buff going, and have a huge wave to push with it. There's no longer a Nexus tower to defend anything. It's literally your bodies from BLG just being the only thing to keep you in this game, to keep you in this series. We'll see what their drawn line in the sand is going to be. As they are, Suning are looking here. As On has already gone in for the engagement. There's the taunt. There's your main tank already gone. JWay is done for, and this could be his last hurrah here if Suning want to continue to press. Look at the re-engage. Look at the heroic entrance. They could just focus the Nexus, but they don't even want to. They want to go for the kills, Clement, as they get forward after forward after forward movement into the face of BLG, but now they have turned their sights on the Nexus. They've turned their sights on the kills. They've turned their sights onto the playoffs as they take down BLG and will help solidify their placement in the playoffs.
Very clean win coming out from them, just making sure that everyone knows that Suning is not a team to be trifled with. Great late game play coming out from Huanfeng once again, they have another good early game, 2v2 against the top lane, breaking BBU's lane early. Lucian, without a flash, couldn't really put pressure, and then he dies twice in lane in a bit of a weird fashion. You see there, Suning definitely still having some of that brotherly love with BBU.
Yeah.
Who did actually, I believe he was coming from Suning's sister team, so you know, they're welcoming an old friend there and asking BB how he's doing. Probably not very well, but they are familiar with him, you can tell.
I like to see the smiles, you know, even after a disheartening loss. He's still having that smile, still having some of that positivity. Maybe that's not his full emotions, but that's what we see, and that's what I like to see. But I have to say it's a bit disheartening right now for BLG, right? This was the kickoff to the dream run. This is where you could really make a statement here and push yourself up, trying to get to that 10th spot, that final playoff spot. But Suning come out of the gates swinging. They almost perfect game you in game number 1. Game number 2, they just choke you out with the objective control, with the map movements, with the pressure put in the top lane against BBU. There was just no stopping Suning in this series.
And we do have to take a short time to explain BLG's current position. They can still make it into playoffs, but it would require Rogue Warriors to defeat LNG. That is a bit of a tall ask, as Rogue Warriors so far has only won 3 games. You know, it's to mention that Rogue Warriors did beat Top Esports, but if that happens, then yes, they can still make playoffs, but they also have to defeat FPX afterwards. So
yeah.
A very, very tall order. Both of those things have to be true. They have to happen at the same time. The FPX thing, I don't actually think is impossible. FPX have not been looking that great. However, Rogue Warriors beating LNG, that's going to be a bit of a miracle.
And it's never fun when you're like hoping and wishing for somebody else. You don't have the necessarily all the way in your hands. Even if you can take it against FPX, you're still hoping for somebody else to drop the ball or pick up the ball, if you will. And I do agree with your point, right? BLG do have a chance against FPX. I think that's something we set out in the beginning of the series where, you know, looking forward, things are looking a little rough. Things are looking a bit hard to deal with. But with the downtrend of FPX, with a bit of learning coming away from this Suning series as much as you can in a couple days, that's where I'm hoping like we see a refreshed BLG even off after a disheartening win or loss. Sorry.
Yeah, I feel like this series was a really good microcosm of why BLG kind of failed our expectations. BBU in 2020, when he was playing on V5, he was actually a pure weak side top laner. He got no resources, he was just put on the Renekton constantly, and that's the role we thought they would fit in for him on BLG. We felt like they were going to put BBU just on weak side top lane and try to get him to play engage. You have Zika, who's early aggression, and you have Aiming, who's early aggression. So it was very clear to me that how this team was going to operate. They were just going to play toward the bottom side, forget about top, and then just play that way. But what we saw in the rest of the season was BBU actually turned out that he couldn't play weak side anymore. It was a really weird change of events. He was a completely different person. He was like only Jason Lucian, and the game plan kind of fell apart from there because BLG had to focus on too many sides of the map, and oftentimes BBU became a very easy target. In this game, I felt like he made a lot of just really weird mistakes, overextending on the first push and then dying with the Herald buff up on the top lane. And it just showcased that if BLG can just narrow their focus, just play towards the bottom side on things like the Sion and Ornn, I actually think they could do much better. They would have a much better chance at coming back into games where they're behind in the early phases, and they would have much better engage. But for some reason, they stick into this kind of a smorgasbord of a composition where they're trying to win all lanes at the same time and go feast or famine. And, you know, you're just not Invictus Gaming. Even Invictus Gaming were barely able to pull that off this split. What makes you think that BLG can do such a thing? So I just want to see them just clamp down on BBU. It's very late into the season, but that's the change I want them to make. Just put him on the Sion and be done with it.
Yeah, I'm getting the Too Many Cooks song in my head here for BLG. Just too many pieces to go try and play through, too many things to try and work through. And you're getting to the end of the season, so it's never a good thing to have so many things to work on moving forward. But you still have a chance. You still have momentum maybe for yourself if you can pick up that win against FPX, if you can hope for some things that are out of your hands to go your way. And you know, talking about BLG a little bit in that fashion is really nice, and I love to give them a little bit more of something to look forward to. But now Suning, right, coming off dominant wins here back to back in this series. That feels really good moving forward into the playoffs.
I was very impressed by their vision control and just SOFM's knowledge of where Meteor was going to be on the map. Almost always they had vision on one side of the quadrant of BLG's jungle, and they were able to pick their plays based on where Meteor couldn't reach. So that's a huge thing for them. Judging Sunning's overall performance, I think they will still have a bit of trouble when it comes to the bot lane. I feel like their bot lane 2v2 is not necessarily the strongest. So against teams like EDG, where you have Mako and Viper on the other end, or against teams like Top Esports, where you have Zoe and Jackie on the other end, that's going to be their biggest hurdle. Because against these teams, they will consistently look for 2v2 kills. They will not let you just play getting your lane shoved in 24/7 and not punish you for that. So that's my sort of question for Sunning. But if it gets into the late game, I feel like this is probably the strongest team in the LPL currently. I don't think EDG actually plays front-to-back teamfight as well as Sunning does. And I don't think a team like JD Gaming necessarily has as good as a backline carry in Huanfeng compared to someone like Loken, who is much more about, just trying to stay alive in those situations. So if Huanfeng leads and Huanfeng and Sunning get to 35-minute mark, they are the Elder Dragon team of the LPL right now. You really don't want to face them in that time frame.
Yeah, and that's where I like the point you were making. Like, you're facing Viper, you're facing Jackie, you're facing some of these duos, and Huanfeng maybe is going to have a little bit of trouble in the laning phases trying to stay steady. Because as you said, that's been the biggest focus. We talked a lot about Huanfeng's positioning in the fights, being able to stay at arm's reach, being able to keep that sustained damage going down. But it's been a lot off the back of, a strong early game from everybody else. You're getting ahead in other avenues, so it makes the focus of the team somewhere else potentially. And we saw that a lot in these fights today, where the fights are always focused on who initially engages. Nobody's worried about the ADCs in the backline.
Yeah. In most of these games, the way Sunning has been playing out their bot lane is they're actually just letting the enemy push. They're not even really trying to contest a 2v2. They're only going in when the gank comes. So that's a style that I feel like is very punishable against bot lane teams that want to push their advantage and are constantly calling for 4v2 dives into the bot lane. I think they're going to have the most trouble against EDG and Top Esports. But the other teams, they should have a good time.
They should. Well, you know who else had a good time here? The catalyst for the team, Sunning's SOFM, is going to be getting the MVP.
Style of Me strikes once again, and if you had any doubt whether Meteor or SOFM was having the better split, well, I think this series really settles it as Sunning run a clinic on against BLG. They take the same exact 3 picks that they drafted in game 1 and basically taught them how to play it. So when you're going onto the Udyr, I think it's very important to be able to be willing to go into the enemy jungle. That's why you pick early Udyr. He's never punished. It's very hard to actually lock him down with the bear stance early. He has one of the best clears, and it was very simple for SOFM to snowball this game early on. He had clear target, Biu, just overextending. This was honestly super weird. I have no understanding. I don't know why Biu was in that position at all. But they're able to pick that up, and throughout most of the game, they had a very clear vision advantage on the top side. This play itself was just off SOFM, placing a bunch of wards into the blue buff. BLG had to spend time clearing it up, and he makes the counterplay cross map just onto Amy.
Yeah, you just see over and over again. It's literally SOFM just running and making sure that he sets up a good front line for his team. And here it's a little bit more of a follow-up and chase down. But either way, that flexibility in the moment is something that I really think is big for Sunning. And knowing, I say it all the time, the heads-upness, I guess, just knowing when to press those advantages, right? You can have a lead all day long. You can have the almost perfect game that you had in game number 1. But BLG were swinging in game number 2, trying to at least, and there just wasn't any possibility at least there. As I do get word, Clement, as we're going to be having an interview. So Wendy, take it away.
Hi everyone, welcome to the interview, and here we have Bin from Sunning with us. So congratulations on today's 2-0 victory, and now Sunning have locked the playoff seat already. And to be honest, I think Sunning has a very shaky start. So till now, which part do you think the whole team has made the most improvements on? 那首先恭喜你们，今天也是2-0拿下了胜利嘛。那现在苏宁也已经锁定了季后赛的席位。其实就感觉赛季初，其实你们的开始并不是那么的一个完美，但是你觉得一路走过来，觉得这个赛季整个队伍会在哪些部分有着比较明显的进步或者提高呢？
我觉得我个人的话就变得更加团队一些，然后跟队友的配合也更默契了。然后我们整个团队的话，就是大家沟通就是比以前通畅了很多，然后大家都是配合越来越默契了。
I think personally, I try to play around the team and I try to improve. I have some improvements on the synergy with other teammates, and also I think as a whole team, we try to make some improvements on the team's communication, and we try to have a better synergy in games. And also, let's move on to today's game. In game 1, after 20 minutes, there are only 2 kills occurred. While BLG play around the macro, where you guys purposely maybe slow the pace a bit to allow the Kassadin and Jinx to skill up. Could we know more about your early game strategy for game 1? 那第一局其实20分钟的时候，也一共只有2颗人头的产生，然后就感觉 BLG 他们也是主要的围绕运营为主。那你们是不是也有故意的去可能放缓一些节奏，让自己的比如说卡萨丁啊、金克斯来发育起来呢？
第一局的话，我们这边选择的阵容就是上中野和下路，其实我们都是五条路的，就是发育的阵容。然后对面的阵容就是要通过前区，然后就压榨我们，然后找节奏，然后拿优势的阵容。所以我们第一局就是，其实我们都做的挺好的，就是把自己的发育都弄起来，然后对面也没有找到什么机会，然后我们那个阵容到后期就比较好打。
To be honest, I think in game 1, all 5 of us have a very skilling draft. We have a very skilling champions. So I think the pressure should on the opponent's team. The opponent's team, they should grab some early game tempo to try to open the situation. And I think in game 1, the early phase, we didn't make many mistakes. So they didn't able to seek very good opportunities to snowboard. And also, I think in the late game, we were able to just take over the whole situation and grab the win for us. And also in game 1, after the second Baron got refreshed, the opponent's team BLG, they have hidden in the bush near the river and would like to trap you guys. But this team fight ended up a super perfect counter engagement from Suning. So could we know more about that team fight? 那其实第一局就感觉第二条大龙刷新以后嘛，对面其实有在河道的草丛感觉埋伏下来，想要去抓你们，但是你们却是以一波非常漂亮的一波反打来终结了那一波。所以想问一下，当时对内有什么样的一个沟通吗？发生了些什么？
第一局那里的话，其实对面阵容就是打龙比较快的阵容，然后加上我们那里大龙没有视野，然后我们其实挺难过去的。然后我们人马就最后的嘛，就直接走在第一个，然后人马虽然死了，但是我们其他4个人就是可以收割，然后把对面的其他人全部杀死。那我主要就这样的一个沟通吧。
At that time, I feel the opponent's composition, they have the ability to just rush the Baron, and we lost the vision around the Baron pit. So our junglers, the Hakrim, he just standing in front of us. And also, although the opponent's team, they were able to make the engagement and caught our Hakrim, but the 4 of us can just smash them and win the team fight. And also in game 2, game 2 is super one-sided. So from which point in time do you think, okay, we can just grab the win for game 2? 那其实第二局是比较一边倒的嘛，那你们是从哪个时间点开始就觉得我们好像已经胜券在握了呢？
第二局的话，就是我们就是上路就是纳尔打卢锡安这种英雄，就是前面只要发育起来，中期卢锡安是很难玩的。然后就我跟队友沟通的话，一级就过来打卢锡安的闪现，然后其实一级打出他闪现之后，我就觉得我们这把游戏是优势挺大的。然后加上后面就是把卢锡安抓死了，然后我觉得我们已经赢了。
For the Nar and Lucian top matchup, I feel if my Nar can scale up, it's very hard for the opponent's team to open the situation. So I just told my jungler, maybe we can have some ganks from level 1. And after we were able to get the get the Lucian flash, we have already think that the opponent's team is very hard for them to open the whole situation. And also we have killed the Lucian in the very early game. So I think from that time, we were just one step away from the victory. And now I would like to talk a bit more about the top lane champion choices, because currently we can see all the maybe marksman, mage, tanks and warriors. We thought like all the champions, they can appear on the top lane. So in your perspective, which are the strongest ones for the top lane, or maybe the strongest one that can fit into the Suning's playstyle? 那最后也想问一下关于一些上路英雄的问题，就感觉现在上路英雄选择五花八门嘛，什么射手、法师、坦克，各种各样的英雄都可以出场。那你觉得这个版本最强的一些上路英雄会是什么呢？或者说最能适合你们苏宁的一个打法的上路英雄会是哪些呢？
我觉得这个版本就是最强的上路英雄的话，这个不好说，因为就是根据不同的队伍，就是有不同的体系，会选择不同的英雄。然后我觉得这是我们的目前就是什么杰斯、船长、鳄鱼娜这种，就是可以一个人上路玩，然后也可以帮助到队友的英雄。然后以后的话，我可能会试一下就是别的英雄，就比如说那种什么法师 AD 这种英雄。
I feel like it's very hard to choose strongest top lane champions because I think it's need to fix in the play styles from different teams and to fit in their drops. But I think some champions, in my perspective, I think maybe champions including like Jace, Gnar, Renekton, or the Glamblink. Those champions I can play on my own, and also I can help other teammates as well. Those champions is very suitable for our Suning's playstyle. But maybe I think in the future I may pick some mage or marksmen on top as well. And thank you for the sharing. Best of luck for the playoff. 那再一次的恭喜你们季后赛加油 ！And back to you guys. Bye bye.
Thank you so much, Wendy. I appreciate it. And Ben for giving us a little bit of insight into that monstrous series by Suning. I have to say, maybe we'll be seeing some of those mage marksmen. I want to see what he's got.
I guarantee you, everyone right now in the LPL is being coached by their support staff to say that. Just tell everyone that you play everything, and you have a ton up your sleeves. You know, never tell them what you're actually gonna play. Every single player we've heard in an interview, when you ask them what's the strongest champion, they're like, "Oh, it depends on the system." You know, I'm not gonna tell you what I'm gonna play. So it's gonna be an interesting draft.
We need the poker glasses on for when they take the interviews just to make sure that's all good. But Clement, we got to talk a little bit about what we saw today. It was a day of 2-0s. No 3-game series today, but some fun ones, especially starting off with JDG versus OMG, and then going into that Suning BLG matchup that we just watched.
Very dominating series from both of the higher seeds. I'm a little bit sad JD Gaming themselves put out a tweet about Mystic and he didn't show up. I thought they were gonna surprise us a little bit with that, but you know, it doesn't come to fruition. JD Gaming instead, they throw out a lot more of their flex picks. We saw the set in the support and also the Nocturne coming out from the top lane once more, and it's just gonna sow so much doubt into people that have to draft and play against them. Sunny, on the other hand, I felt like they showed a little less. It was a very standard draft on both games for them, but they just are that big, slow, steady armada that is coming your way when it comes to the late game.
And we do look at our standings here, Clement. Things are getting all nice and tidy here, except for that last spot. Billy having to drop down another game differential here, hoping to catch up to LNG. A little bit out of their hands, a little bit in their hands. I'd say one hand in, one hand out.
Yeah, it's very difficult for BLG to actually get back in. Once again, they need to defeat FPX, and LNG has to lose to Rogue Warriors in order for that to become a possibility. I want to talk about the standings a little bit more because this split really has been about top laners. Whoever gets the elite top laners has actually found themselves into the top side very, very well. There's almost no elite top laners like past the 9th place spot. You can't really find a good top laner. It's almost pure weak side top laners from there on. So it's interesting to think about the LPL, the league that's famous for their AD carries, the league that has the most MVPs in mid lane. Now all of a sudden about who has the better top, who can play the more champions in that long sort of island.
Yeah, I'm so interested in how the meta develops, especially going into playoffs, right? Where you're starting to get those best of series that really matter. Everything's on the line. All the tricks are coming out. All those cards are coming out of the sleeves. But we have a little bit longer until we get to that point. We've got a little bit more in this week to finish us out and talking about that a little bit. Tomorrow's matches, we've got TES going against Thunder Talk for our first game, and then WE taking on EDG.
The second one is something you don't want to miss. This is super interesting. Both of these teams are stacked with carries on all of their roles. They typically run quad carries for these team compositions. So it's going to be super fun to see. Very dynamic. All of these teams could play through all of their side lanes. So it's very hard to actually pinpoint where the matchup is going to end up. And typically when we see teams like that, I usually give red side draft a lot of priority.
I have to say I'm really excited for that second matchup, but I gotta say, I'm really excited to see what Top have coming into this last week. I want to see what they can show us. And yes, it is against ThunderTalk, a little bit of a lopsided matchup on paper, but ThunderTalk can bring up some scruff if they want to. And I want to see what Top can bring in to kind of secure themselves in this last week and keep that confidence building.
Yeah, Xiaopeng versus Karsa is always kind of a fun one to see because they have such different mentalities. Xiaopeng just wants to kill you, Karsa wants to help his lane. We'll figure out how that one ends up tomorrow.
Yeah, we will indeed. But that is it from us here on the desk. I want to say thank you so much to Clement for stepping in a last moment for Magical, who's having some technical difficulties. Thank you again for joining me. I was glad to have another cast with you, even though we weren't thinking we were going to get one. So I'm just happy to be here with you, Clement. But also to everyone who tuned in for tonight's games, it was a definite fun one. We had some bangers, we had some fun times along the way, but we got to call it a night. We got to hit the hay and get ready for tomorrow. So thank you all again, and we'll see you next time on Summoner's Rift.